those runs came in the first 2 innings as they jumped all over Mets starter David Cone. And as you're about to see, Cone probably cut his own throat even before the game began. The last thing the Dodgers needed last night was another reason to beat the Mets. After having blown a 9th-inning lead in Game 1, they knew they had to win Game 2 or face the prospect of going back to New York trailing 2-0. And who would provide that incentive? None other than the Mets starter himself, David Cone, who said in his column in the New York Daily News, ghostwritten by Bob Clappish, among other things, that Dodgers relief pitcher Jay Howell reminded him of a high school pitcher.
The comments were made not intended to offend anybody. They were made in a very facetious manner. It was almost a joking manner, and unfortunately I didn't communicate that to Bob Clappish, who wrote it in the article.
You can't see a giggle or a grin on a guy's face in print. I mean, if he was being facetious, good for him. I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better about the guy. But in print, it didn't come across that way, and it didn't come across to everybody on this team that way.
Facetious or not, Cone had said it, and to his credit, he did own up to that fact.
I have, David's just earned my lifelong respect for this, because it would have been very easy for him to say he was misquoted, or in fact he never said those things, because that's a very convenient excuse you can use. You can always blame it on the writer. David did say those things, and he admitted he said those things. Perhaps there was some poor judgment in the phrasing, or maybe how he meant it. I mean, there was maybe a lack of communication between me and Dave, but he did say those things, and he's owned up to those words.
Cone may have earned the respect of his ghostwriter, but he did very little to earn the respect of his peers on the mound. He made his earliest exit of the season, lasting only 2 innings. Now, Cone may already be a star in his 2nd season in the majors, but it's obvious he still has a lot to learn about playing this game.
His numbers speak for himself. I've been in this game for 11 years professionally, and I do know the beast very well. And I thought I was on top of the world a few times, and I got knocked on my ass a few times, so I don't say things like that.
Yes, I was humbled. Definitely I was. And like I said, I tried to put the newspaper article behind me. I don't think it had any effect on the game. I really don't know. But yes, I did learn something, and I will communicate my ideas better to my ghostwriter.
Yesterday, with the National League Championship Series tied at 2 games apiece, Sid Fernandez was on the mound for the Mets and yielded Game 5's first 2 runs on a 4th-inning double by Rick Dempsey. Then in the 5th, exactly 13 hours after a Kirk Gibson home run had provided the margin of victory in Game 4, and with the Dodgers ahead by 3, Gibson's homer with 2 on gave Los Angeles a 6-0 lead. The Mets had shaved the lead to 6-4 when Gibson set up an insurance run with a 9th-inning steal. But a re-injured hamstring sent him to the clubhouse. With Jay Howell's suspension still in effect, Brian Holton came out of the bullpen to end the game when John Shelby's running catch cemented a 7-4 Dodger victory and sent the 2 teams winging west for Game 6, with the Dodgers 1 win away from the World Series.
In the 3rd game of this series, Saturday afternoon in New York, you'll recall the temperature was 43 degrees. It was almost cold enough to snow. Now, Tuesday, twilight in Los Angeles. The temperature today in L.A. up into the high 80s. Right now, it's about 84 degrees. Dodger Stadium filling to capacity for Game 6 of the National League Championship Series as the Mets take on the Dodgers, and the Dodgers try to win the pennant for the first time since 1981. I'm Al Michaels, and welcome to Game 6. And tonight it's Tim Leary on the mound for the Dodgers, David Cone for the Mets. And we start by telling you Kirk Gibson injured yesterday, took a shot of cortisone yesterday, took batting practice tonight. He is in the lineup for the Dodgers in the number 3 spot in left field. Just about 48 hours ago, the New York Mets were 3 outs away from going up 3-1. And I'm not sure the Dodgers could have rebounded on Monday from that sort of deficit. Instead, Mike Scioscia hit a home run, and that is the fulcrum in this series right now. Gibson won that game with a home run past midnight. Dodgers win yesterday, and now it's the Mets who come to town having to win 2 games to keep their season alive. The New York Mets, of course, are trying to win the pennant for the first time in 2 years, and the Dodgers are trying to win it for the first time in 7 seasons, and the World Series opens Saturday against the Oakland A's. What about the New York Mets now? Can they bounce back? Here's the state of the team from tonight's spokesman, Keith Hernandez.
Well, I think we have to get off quick today. I think offensively we have to make every at-bat count early. We've been behind every game, have to come back, and it's just an uphill climb. It's been like an uphill struggle every game. I think it's important for us to jump out quick tonight, have a big inning, get up 4 runs, and get a good pitching performance, and that might carry. That'll I think carry over to tomorrow. Then you got a great pitching matchup with Darling and Hershiser.
But tonight's pitching matchup, of course, in Game 6 is Leary and Cone, and this crowd has been basically characterized as very laid back through the years, is very pumped up right now for Game 6 of the National League Championship Series. Dodger Stadium in the twilight from above as we prepare now for the 6th game of the National League Championship Series. As we mentioned at the top of the telecast, there was some question as to Kirk Gibson. Yesterday, he was forced to leave the game, re-injuring his hamstring. There he is live. We mentioned that he is in the starting lineup for the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight in the number 3 spot in the batting order and playing left field. And we thought this would be a most opportune time for you to learn a little bit more about Kirk Gibson of the Dodgers.
I'm just a very intense person, and I think I approach things a little differently than some do. I call the game the beast. When things start going good, the beast will get you, and it brings you down. So, I mean, that's part of what drives you. And you know, I've suggested that we have something to throw stuff into next year because of the ricochets, and it's probably something that I shouldn't do. It's an outlet. It's a frustration. I don't like to fail, and obviously when I'm doing that, I've failed. Sparky, I remember Sparky used to tell me, you know, there's no way you can make it through a season like this. You're going to have to learn to curtail yourself a little bit, which I did. And as it's been said that I was like a wild stallion when I first came into the game, and now it's said that I was at least a broken stallion. If you don't get on the field to win, I don't understand why you're there. I believe in shooting for the works, and that is to be world champs. I just think I'm a good person. I think I work at it, being a good person and being a good player. And I think one of the biggest reasons that people don't understand a lot about me or don't know me is because that's my choice. I choose to have it that way. I think I know who my real true friends are. And when I step on that field, it's not only for the competition, but it is my job. And I am performing out there. I think I have a ballpark mentality and a family mentality, and I will not take the game home with me. That's what makes me happy. My family makes me happy. And my wife, matter of fact, says that she comes to the game sometime just to see the other side of me, because I'm much different than anybody would perceive me to be with my family because of what they see on the field. And as I said earlier, that's my choice. I don't really like people to know Kirk Gibson, what he really is all about. But they can be assured of one thing, and that's that they're going to give every ounce of energy and determination and competitiveness, willness to win that ball game when I'm on that field.
Live, Kirk Gibson, and as you can imagine, a huge ovation as he was just introduced to this crowd at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. We'll be back with more from L.A. right after this. Jay Howell is eligible to pitch tonight. Originally, President Bart Giamatti of the National League handed down a 3-day suspension. It was subsequently reduced to 2, so he is available to Tommy Lasorda tonight. Jay Howell is a very sensitive and a very intelligent man who is distressed at the perception that some people might have of this incident, and he talked about it earlier.
Well, I first want to say that it's important that I get across that my intent was not to cheat in any way, that under the conditions, I was simply trying to get a grip on the ball. And I issued a statement in New York, and I explained the entire matter, and I wanted to put it behind me. But at the same time, I did want to come out and say that there was absolutely no intention to change in any way the flight of the ball or to put anything on the ball, because that's not what the purpose of the pine tar was for.
Jay, it seems to me as difficult as it has been for you and your teammates to not have you available for 2 games. As important as that is the fact that I get the feeling you feel to a certain degree your reputation has been besmirched by this entire affair.
Well, I hope that people understand that the reason why that I was using pine tar, the substance, was simply to take the place of rosin. It's a common occurrence in baseball. People do that, pitchers do that, to get a better grip on the ball. And in those conditions, it's common knowledge that pitchers use it.
Tell me what it was like for you to have to, as a spectator, view Game 4 Sunday night on television.
I don't think that I could describe what the feeling was to sit there and watch 2 guys, Tudor and Kirk Gibson, out there with my initials on their sleeves. And the feeling that I had watching them come back and respond like that was just indescribable. It's incredible, the support that I've gotten from my teammates, and I just don't have words to tell you how I felt about that.
So once again, Jay Howell back in uniform tonight, available obviously tomorrow if we go 7. Tommy Lasorda would love to have him have another night off tonight because he'd like to see Tim Leary go all the way. He'll face David Cohn, and we'll be back with Game 6 after this from your local station.
Enjoy baseball memories throughout the years by ordering your copy of the 1988 World Series souvenir program. Packed with more than 90 pages of features, facts, and photos on the Fall Classic, this program is truly a collector's item. Get your souvenir program by sending a $6 check or money order to World Series Program, Box 88, Trenton, New Jersey, 08651. That's Box 88, Trenton, New Jersey, 08651. Be sure to include your proper return address.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Again, beautiful early evening in Los Angeles, temperature in the 80s and at Dodger Stadium. Crowd still coming in for Game 6 as the Dodgers try to win the pennant tonight and the New York Mets try to extend it one more day and set up a 7th game tomorrow night, which would come your way at 8 o'clock Eastern and at 5 o'clock Pacific. But right now, first things first, as we get set for Game 6. And again, if you're tuning in a little bit late, Kirk Gibson will play tonight, despite suffering a recurring injury to the left hamstring yesterday, sliding into second base in the 9th inning. And Tim McCarver, he has come to very much be the symbol and the embodiment of the Dodgers, and never more so than on a night like tonight.
Well, Al, you've heard that saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, as far as Kirk Gibson's language is concerned, if it ain't broke, play the game, and that's what he'll be doing tonight. Now, think about it. If you were a teammate of Kirk Gibson and you see a guy out there playing on one leg, kind of pump you up, wouldn't it? And what if you were a pitcher on the staff and Oral Hershiser threw 111 pitches on Saturday and then came back, worked in relief in the 12th inning on Sunday, and then Monday he was warming up, and he'll be the starting pitcher if it goes to 7 games. I agree with Keith Hernandez in that the Mets have to strike early tonight. They haven't done that during this series.
Not at all. In fact, the Dodgers have had the lead in every game. Now, as far as the pitching matchup is concerned, Jim Palmer, 2 guys who haven't pitched a lot of innings of late, but for varying reasons.
Well, that's true. David Cohn And the irony, I think, really, if you look at David Cone, is the fact the Mets probably wouldn't have been here in the playoffs without him. He pitched the second game, but before that, he wrote that infamous column. Or actually, he didn't write it. He talked to one of the writers. The writer wrote it, and he has been regretting it ever since. Lost his poise, did not pitch well. 17 games over 500. Tim Leary, on the other hand, 17-game winner, lost 11. The big question in my mind, he pitched very poorly down the stretch, and I think most people feel that it's the 360 innings. He pitched 30 in spring training, 90 in winter ball, and over 200 this year. So I think he's tired, and he's had some mechanical problems, too.
So here we go, Game 6 coming your way from Los Angeles, the Dodgers and the Mets in the National League Championship Series. And there is Steve Garvey, who got to throw out the first pitch, the longtime Dodger first baseman, who, of course, ended his career with the San Diego Padres. Accorded the honor of throwing out the ceremonial first pitch to a former teammate, Mike Scioscia. Mets lineup tonight. Len Dykstra starts things in center field. Wally Backman now is up in the 2 spot. A shift there for Dave Johnson. Hernandez hits third, and of course it's Strawberry fourth. And Kevin McReynolds struggling 3 for 20 in the series in the 5 spot. They move Greg Jeffries from number 2 to 6th in the order. Gary Carter does the catching. Howard Johnson is on the bench, and Kevin Elster is the shortstop tonight. And the pitcher is David Cone, who lasted 2 innings in Game 2 Wednesday. Tim Leary, a one-time Met, a Met draft choice in 1979. Now a Dodger trying to beat the Mets. The inside pitch on Tim from the Phillies, Mike Schmidt.
There aren't a lot of secrets to Tim Leary. Tim comes right at the hitters with a hard, heavy, sinking fastball. Runs it in on righties, runs it away from lefties. He likes to get ahead of the hitters with that heavy fastball and put them away with the split-fingered fastball. This is the key pitch for Tim Leary. It's made him the great pitcher that he has been this year. The split-fingered fastball goes down, looks like a fastball, and dives into the dirt at the last second. Tim's a good fielder, holds runners on, goes to home plate quick, tough to steal on. Tim Leary's probably the best right-handed hitting pitcher in the National League.
So good, in fact, he came up as a pinch hitter in a big game with the Giants in August and won it with a pinch hit. Gibson, Shelby, and Marshall in the Dodger outfield. Hamilton, Griffin, Sachs, and Hatcher in the infield. Mike Scioscia back of the plate. And here we go with Tim Leary on the mound before a crowd that was as raucous and animated as any I can ever remember in Los Angeles before the game. Certainly before the game, they were more raucous and animated than most I've heard during games.
That's what Tommy said before the series start. We got to get we know they're going to come out. Let's get them involved, and they are involved.
Len Dykstra to lead off, and the first pitch of the game is taken for a strike. So it's almost as if the Dodger fans, having sat back and watched the 3 games in Shea Stadium, pick up that audio level as their club returns home.
Everybody's got to have a game plan, and the Mets' game plan is to try to keep the crowd out of this game. And if they score early, that may do it.
Dykstra, who homered yesterday, takes a pitch away, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Right now, the entire field is encased in shade. The sun is really no problem, but it's still a little bit difficult for the hitters because the lights have really not taken effect. 1-2.
Well, that's what Mike Schmidt, that's what he said was so important, is you just saw a nice sinking fastball, is if you do get ahead now, the hitter does not see the ball. If you pitch quickly, you have about 3 or 4 innings until really the lights will take effect. It's a big advantage for a pitcher.
Dykstra right on top of the plate. They try to pitch him inside, and he thought that ball was a ball, but clearly that was a strike that came back over the inside part of the plate.
The 1-2 to Dykstra is lifted foul. Dykstra and Wilson, and those of you who follow the Mets know this, and we've detailed it to some extent, have platooned for the better part of the last 3 years, though Dykstra was playing a lot in June and July and August, and then Wilson took over in September. They've been platooned in the series, but Mookie now has an injured thumb, and Dykstra in the lineup tonight. Not necessarily because of that particular reason, but it does make Davey Johnson's choice easier in that regard. He's got a man with an injured thumb in Wilson, and he's got a real fresh body in Dykstra.
Well, earlier in the year, September 2nd, Leary threw 4 home runs. 2 by Kevin Elster. He's playing shortstops tonight. 1 by Greg Jeffries. He's at third. And then Another one by Mookie Wilson. But if you go back to yesterday, 3-run home run and then a double down the line for Lenny Dykstra. So it's a pretty good reason to have him in the lineup.
Dykstra hits it sharply, and it's off the glove of Hatcher, and he can't recover. Had Mickey been able to barehand it after it had popped out of his glove, he might have had a play with Leary covering it first, but then he juggled it again, and that was that. So Dykstra's on, and Hatcher gets an error.
Looks like the ball hits. Yeah, well, I agree. Ball hits him on actually the hand. I don't think he got a glove on it. The ball hit above the glove. Short hop. Wicked one-hopper. Could have been scored a base hit. I agree, Jim.
Of course, what makes it harder, too, is that it's coming out of the crowd, and the same thing that the hitter goes through, or the infielder goes through, coming right out of the white shirts.
Now Wally Backman, who has been hitting in the 8 spot, and Davey Johnson shuffling his lineup tonight with Backman up in the 2 spot, and Jeffries down in the 6 spot, with Elster also in the lineup at shortstop.
Also goes back to that graphic I think we saw 2 games ago, which is that the Dodgers first baseman had more errors than any other first baseman group in the National League. Something like 23 errors.
Right.
Dykstra, who had 30 steals, is going, and a perfect hit and run to left field, and Dykstra is on his way to third. So an auspicious beginning for the Mets as Dykstra reaches, and then on a hit and run, Backman slaps one to left for a base hit, and the Mets have runners at first and third with nobody out, and the meat of the order coming up.
In 1986, when you thought of the Mets in early innings, you thought of Backman at first, Dykstra at third. The 2 table setters getting on, and the Mets have failed to do that during this series, but they are trying to take the first lead for the first time. The Dodgers have scored first in every game thus far.
Keith Hernandez hit .276 during the regular season. Dodger infield double play depth. Dykstra at third and Backman at first. And with so much talk about Gibson's hamstring, almost lost is the fact that Hernandez didn't play about a third of the season because of his hamstring pull, and that limited his playing time severely this year. But it's had no ill effect on him in the playoffs, at least from our perception. Backman held on by Hatcher. Mets with runners at first and third and nobody out at the top of the first inning.
And of course, Leary is very conscious of Wally. Wally does not run like he used to. I mean, he's had some hamstring problems, but also when I talked to him, he used to steal 26, 31 bases. He said, I don't like to take away that hole for Hernandez. That's the hole between first and second. And then if he makes an out, I certainly don't want to get thrown out with Darryl Strawberry at the plate.
Hernandez checks his swing, comes around, and the count is 0-2.
Again, a very selective hitter does not, in this situation, want to swing a ball that he doesn't want to hit. So he's very happy he does not hit this ball. He'd rather have it down. Tries to hold up and does it.
An idea that Tim Leary has a good moving fastball right now.
Well, we saw that with Dykstra, the way the ball was off the plate and run right back in.
0-2 pitch is inside, 1-2.
Yeah, Mike Scioscia said he really has 3 kinds of fastballs. I don't want to get too complex, but a normal pitcher will hold the ball across the seams, which gives you a little bit of lift. You hold it with the seams, it'll run away from a left-handed hitter into a right-hander, and then you can put a little more pressure on the four-seamer. You can see right there, it looks like he's with the seams. Put a little more pressure in your middle finger, and you can make the ball slide. It'll cut. So it gives you 3 fastball, really, to the same delivery.
1-2 pitch, just missing. 2-2. And 55,400 trying to umpire that call.
Well, it looks like Wade Boggs type. The umpires know that Hernandez has a great eye. And the ball's outside, he doesn't even offer. Good idea of the strike zone.
And that's Paul Runge calling the balls and strikes tonight. 2-2 the count. first inning, no score. Dykstra at third, Backman at first. And the 2-2 pitch is hit foul off to the left. Runge is back of the plate, and the rest of the alignment tonight. Harry Wendelstedt is at first, and that means he'd be back of the plate in a 7th game. John McSherry at second, Joe West at third, Dutch Renner down the line in left, and Bob Davidson in right.
The umpires have done an outstanding job.
Indeed.
A couple of arguments put on bunts at the plate or something like that, but handled the situation very well. In fact, Paul Runge's dad, Ed Runge, umpired a lot of games. Big strike zone for the first 2, then you had to earn the 3rd one. Two and two the count. Lasorda looking on as Leary tries to extricate himself from a first inning jam. Leary, who played at UCLA, delivers 2-2 outside, ball 3. 3-2. So now we'll see about Backman, 3-2 with nobody out, and what Davey Johnson wants to do.
I would say Backman would be running. Almost certain contact hitter up there. A pitcher that throws the ball down in the strike zone, which means that the ground ball would be more prevalent off a guy like Leary than a guy, say, like Roger Clemens, who throws that exploding high fastball. So look for Backman to run.
He takes a conservative lead and still has to go back in with his hand. He was only a couple of steps off the bag.
3-2 pitch with less than 2 outs or with 2 outs is the same as a hit and run. If you're the runner at first base, you've got to make sure the pitcher pitches. It's up to the hitter to put the ball in play.
That's why you'll see a lot of pitchers throw over there more often, hoping to get a cheap out, so to speak, because he is in a jam.
3-2 the count.
Yeah, they're having trouble with the signals, and I'm not really sure. With Leary struggling at this point in the season, he just throw that split finger fastball. He has not had that effective pitch the last month.
Backman goes, swung on and missed. The throw to second is not in time. So Hernandez strikes out, but Backman steals second. And Scioscia's going to contend that Hernandez interfered with the throw, and here comes Lasorda to plead the case as well.
Remember, it doesn't have to be intentional. It can be unintentional interference because the rule book does not specify that it's intentional. And Runge is saying that in the course of Hernandez swinging, that it was a normal swing, and his follow-through, even though it may have carried him through to the inside part of the plate to block the lane that Scioscia had to throw through, it was still a normal occurrence, and in his judgment, it wasn't interference. But I understand what Mike is talking about here. Watch the swing and the follow-through. See, the follow-through takes him into the lane. So Scioscia has to throw the ball to the third base side, and Griffin can't make the quick tag. I understand exactly what Mike is talking about. Here it is again.
But the point is, if he comes over the line out of the batter's box, whether he wanted to interfere or not, I would think that he had interfered.
Well, did he get over enough over the plate to interfere? I mean, it didn't appear that he had lunged across the plate.
It looked like Paul Runge was pointing down at the ground to show Tommy Lasorda where he actually did stride.
Scioscia actually makes contact. See, the pitch is inside. Now, the left foot of Hernandez is the one that makes contact with the right foot of Scioscia.
It seemed like the pitch had more of an effect why he had a swing, because it was in.
The throw took him inside, and that's what fooled Hernandez. So they get the strikeout, but they don't get the interference call.
And meanwhile, runners at second and third, the infield plays back, and Leary works on Strawberry high. And while we were showing you the replays, Ron Peronoski went to the mound. And no doubt discussing situation here. You've got first base open and pitching to Strawberry with the right-hand batting McReynolds on deck. Inside, ball 2, nearly hit him.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. One of the cardinal rules is not to have big innings early. And if you pitch around Darryl Strawberry here, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and Kevin McReynolds, who is having a bad series but is capable of getting a big hit, and you put your team out, this series is not 3-2. It's almost 3-3. And if Cone is up to stuff and snuff, they're in trouble. I mean, I'd rather throw a fly ball, give them a run, because they have been scoring runs this series.
Can you do that here? I don't know whether I agree with you, Jim. I'm not in favor of pitching around the big hitter early in the game, but Strawberry's hot and McReynolds is not. I think I throw him a pitch off the plate here.
2-0 to him is off the plate inside, ball 3. 3-0.
That's why you caught and I pitched, because we don't always agree on that, and that's fine.
I think they'd walk him now. They've tried to throw the ball in off the plate. They've been unsuccessful doing it. You might as well put him on. That's what you're trying to do anyway.
3-0 the count, with McReynolds waiting on deck. And so they pitch around him. They walk him on 4. An intentional walk. The bases are loaded. The infield can set at double play depth. And the only man in the National League with 2 grand slams this season, Kevin McReynolds, comes to the plate. In this series, he is 3 for 20. And that's 150.
Of course, you were there. They pitched around Strawberry, and he had a grand slam.
Off Doug Drabek of the Pirates in the 6th inning. 1 for 10 with runners on base in this series, and that was the base hit yesterday that hit Greg Jeffries. He's also 1 for 15 against right-handed pitching in the series, so he is really struggling against right-handers.
Bases loaded, 1 out, no score, top of the 1st inning. And so the Mets have a golden chance to do exactly what Keith Hernandez said they needed to do at the beginning of the telecast. Get off to a quick start with a couple of runs, and that will have a double effect here. It will take the crowd out of the game, at least for the moment, because if Leary gets out of this jam, the crowd will very much be in the game. And it's hit high in the air to right field, deep enough to score a run. Marshall comes to the line and makes the catch. Dykstra on his way home, and he scores on a sacrifice fly. The other runners hold. So McReynolds with a fly ball to Marshall, and for the first time in this series, the Mets break out on top. 1-0 New York with 2 out now. Runners at 1st and 2nd, and Greg Jeffries coming up.
I'll tell you, I think that's bad base running by Wally Backman. Backman went 3/4 of the way, and Marshall's throw is home. I mean, he can tag up and walk to 3rd, and the reason that's important is because Strawberry, who stole a bunch of bases this year, 29 to be exact, that clears 2nd base for him. So instead of 1st and 2nd, the Mets could have 2nd and 3rd.
Greg Jeffries.
And of course, even if he doesn't steal, you have the first baseman holding the runner on. Big advantage.
Right, with Jeffries hitting.
The switch hitting 3rd baseman takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Well, on the subject of base running blunders, that was such a big play yesterday. Jeffries hit by that soft roller to the left side, with the Mets trailing by 2 in the 8th.
A lot of people felt that going into here that maybe his one weakness might be defense. He's played extremely well. He's made 2 base running errors, 1 in game 2 and then 1 yesterday.
1-1 the count. Foul to the left, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
The one thing as you're viewing this game, whenever you see Mike Scioscia sit inside to a left-handed hitter, it's not going to be a split finger fastball. The only time, because split fingers are not designed to come inside to left-handers, the only time that Leary will throw the split finger fastball is when Scioscia's sitting away, and this might be it right here. Good time for it.
Well, that's been the pattern. They try to get him out with breaking balls, but he's hit some curveballs. I mean, he seems like he is such a gifted young hitter that if you just throw a curveball up there, he waits real well. His body may come forward, but his hands stay back, which is a sign of a good hitter. Split finger has been really his toughest pitch to hit.
1-2. Scioscia sets up inside. Fastball missing, and the count 2-2.
Saw Scioscia then see he leaned to the left and then he came inside, and obviously it was a fastball. You'll never see the split finger target be inside to a left-handed hitter.
Obviously that ball was over the plate, but it was close. Get the reaction of Jeffries running away from the pitch. Must have been high.
Now he sets up away, and the 2-2 is a fastball away, and it's 3-2. And the runners will be going.
Wow. Well, this is why this guy was minor league player of the year 2 years in a row. Look at, I mean, just look at the ball run away. And yet he just starts to swing and holds up.
Awfully close pitches. Awfully close.
So 3-2, Leary ready to throw his 30th pitch of the inning. Backman taking off from second and Strawberry away from first, and the 3-2 pitch is squibbed foul, so he'll throw at least the 31st. But again, the Dodgers have Jay Howell at the end of the line in the bullpen tonight, and now that order becomes relevant very, very quickly. And in fact, the Dodger bullpen goes right into action here in the first inning with Ricky Horton, the left-hander, beginning to throw. And yesterday's short man, Brian Holton, is also up and throwing in his more familiar role as a long man. 3-2 the count. Runners go high, ball 4. So they're loaded up, and it will bring up Gary Carter. And Scioscia goes to the mound, and Perinoski now cannot go to the mound. Remember, he used up his visit in this inning when they went out to talk strategy in regard to Strawberry with first base open. So if anybody goes to the mound, Leary has to come out of the game. Holton is the righty, Horton is the lefty.
You know, this doesn't seem like a first inning. It seems like a continuation of yesterday's game.
This whole series seems like a continuation of the previous day's game.
It really does. Yesterday's game, every inning, the first inning seemed like a continuation of Sunday night's game.
Well, yesterday's game truly was a continuation of Sunday night's game, starting at noon.
Well, that's why it's so important if the Dodgers want to maintain that momentum not to have a big inning here.
Carter, breaking ball over for a strike.
You know, the amazing stat that Steve Hurt came up with is that if in the 59 series that have gone to 6 games, the team trailing 3-2 has come back to win 34 of those times. So it's and I feel, why does that happen? Maybe the team that's ahead doesn't try to win. Not that they don't try to win, they don't pull out all the horses.
Those are all postseason series, playoffs and World Series. Gardner fly ball to shallow right field and down the line, and Hatcher dives but can't make the catch. Mickey going all out, and he is shaken up, I think.
I do too. I think he hit his shoulder and head first, and that with the dirt on his shoulder, he did exactly that. Some feel that Mickey Hatcher, along with Kirk Gibson, of course, the embodiment of the Dodgers spirit, has just taken this town by storm, and you'll see that his shoulder hits first and then the head. Oh, boy.
When I said I think there are times Hatcher being a character, if it were the regular season and he'd made a great effort, once in a while he'll go down like that, get up with a big smile on his face, but no time for frivolity in the 6th game of the playoffs.
You know, it's great for intensity, and you see the intensity here. I mean, this is an all-out effort. He knows how important this third out is in the first inning. But also, he does so many things well. I mean, we saw the hit and run. I mean, perfectly executed. The double off Cone, really to get Cone out of the second ball game.
Jim, he really looks dazed right now.
Well, you know, that's like quarterback. I mean, we've seen what happened in the NFL. We may not have seen it, but we heard about it. A lot of quarterbacks, and then you get knocked on the turf, you hit your head, you get a concussion.
No balls, 2 strikes, and Carter goes down on strikes. So a tough first inning for Leary, but he gets out giving up just 1 run. Dodger lineup tonight, it's Steve Sachs leading things off, and then Mickey Hatcher batting second, and it is Kirk Gibson in the lineup. Batting third with Mike Marshall in the cleanup spot. John Shelby batting 5th. Mike Scioscia with the big home run in the 9th inning in game 4. Jeff Hamilton bats 7th. Alfredo Griffin, the switch hitting shortstop. And Tim Leary threw a lot of pitches in the first inning, but allows just 1 run. 1-0 Mets with David Cone, who won 20 and lost only 3 during the regular season, on the mound for the Mets. Inside pitch on David now from Mike Schmidt.
In pressure-packed playoff games, hitters love to hit fastballs. This is going to give David Cone a distinct advantage. He loves to throw breaking pitches. He has a hard, crisp breaking curve. crisp breaking slider. He'll throw them from over the top, from down on the side. That's not to say he doesn't have a good fastball. He'll average about 90 miles an hour throughout the ball game with his fastball. He'll also drop down when he throws his fastball, too. He's good at holding runners on, a pretty good fielder. He hits left-handed. He does the little things you need to do as a hitter, too.
None of which he did any of those things in game 2. And again, I mean, here's a guy that had a marvelous season. I mean, in 231 innings, he struck out 213 guys, 5 and 6 last year. Not only does he have 4 pitches, he throws them from different angles, has maintained his poise, but in game 2, he balked, hit a batter, threw a couple of hanging sliders. Some balls weren't hit particularly hard, but he wasn't the real David Cone.
He was a nom de plume that night.
It was a conehead.
So he goes to work on Sachs, Hatcher, and Gibson in the bottom of the first inning. Low ball 1-0. And the crowd very much into the game, as we mentioned during our pregame segment. Here in L.A., not only is the crowd normally less vocal than it would be in most other cities for the most part, but it's a very late arriving crowd. Tonight they came early and noisily, and it's 2-0.
I almost get the feeling this crowd is like the crowd in Shea when you get 2 strikes on a hitter. They all stand up and they start cheering for the strikeout. I mean, they're ready to crown the kings, so to speak.
3-0. And Sachs is on 4 pitches. So Stottlemyre and Johnson look on as Sachs, who stole 42 bases during the regular season, leads off with a walk.
Well, very good mechanics from Dave Cone. And I think if you're sitting on the bench and you're Mel Stottlemyre, Davey Johnson, the hardest and the worst angle to really see a pitch is from the bench. You're always yelling, where was that pitch? And a couple of close pitches. So far, Paul Runge's had a tight strike zone.
And Cone starts the game by missing with his first 5.
If you've watched this series, almost every different umpire has had a different strike zone. And the key, of course, that's all right. Just be consistent.
6 in a row, and Carter goes to the mound. And so does Stottlemyre. Well, Cone the other night admitted he was very distracted by everything that happened. And listen to this crowd. Tonight he doesn't have that same distraction, but he starts by throwing 6 pitches out of the strike zone, and now he has to battle this.
Yeah, so you'd have to wonder if the newspaper article isn't still on his mind.
Well, it's also something, I mean, as a guy that started, I don't know how many games I started, but you only go 2 innings. You're used to pitching 7 or 8 innings, even though he did get in game 3 to pitch the 9th inning. You're out of rhythm. And he certainly is here. Now, he has thrown almost every pitch has been a fastball. A lot of times, and it's tough to do, you got to make yourself throw another pitch.
Yeah, but not 2-0.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah. You may start off the 3rd hitter with a breaking ball to kind of get things back into sync. But now it's 2-0 to Hatcher, and I would imagine Hatcher's taking. You got to make Cone throw a strike here.
Sachs, who has stolen 5 bases in the playoffs, goes to second as it gets by Carter. And Sachs takes the turn at second and stops there. So the 7th pitch is a wild pitch.
And what Davey Johnson has to, I mean, really, this is what managing is so difficult. He's got to make, I mean, through his observations, a decision, how long do I go with David Cone? He's going to use the whole staff today if they're able to pitch. I mean, this ball, usually don't throw a fastball 57 feet. A breaking ball will occasionally bounce short of the plate.
Well, Davey's determination of how far to go will be determined on how ineffective he is and the way he's ineffective. He's thrown 7 straight balls.
Hatcher takes all the way, and finally a strike, 3-1.
If you get a couple of flares and then a walk or something like that, and the Dodgers score a couple of runs, you're apt to stay with Cone. But if he walks 2 or 3 hitters in a row, then I think he's more inclined to be yanked.
Ball 4. They appeal no, says Wendelstedt. So 2 walks. Runners at first and second, and listen to the hand for Gibson. still has that J.H. for Jay Howell on the sleeve. Even though Howell had the suspension reduced and is available tonight. And this is the home uniform, so he put this one on before the game. Takes a strike and the count 0-1.
A couple of questions that need to be answered. Number one, really, how well has his leg recovered from yesterday? If he hits a ground ball, it could be a double play, a strikeout type of hitter, 127 on the year. But it can hurt you with one swing, as we saw the last couple of days.
Bunts in the air. Big break for the Mets. Cone makes the catch. Gibson angry with himself. Unable to get the runners over here in the first inning on a curious move to begin with. So 1 out, and Marshall the batter.
More than curious, Al. Very, very strange.
I was just opening up the line of discussion here.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you.
Well, again, I mean, you just don't imagine that to happen. And again, maybe his leg hurts. He took batting practice, seemed to be healthy. But if you're pitching, I mean, that's a blessing. Here's a guy that hit a 3-run home run, won the game 2 days ago. Doing you a favor.
That could be the thing that gets Cone back on track.
Here's Marshall, who hits a high fly ball to left field. And here comes McReynolds, and he makes the catch. So keep that in mind. The Gibson bunt could be the critical point early in the game. You never know the way things evolve, especially in this series. But oftentimes, a tone is set with a very early play.
It almost looks like a sacrifice. I mean,
oh, yeah, it's a sacrifice.
For the Mets.
Yeah, it's a reverse sacrifice.
Ooh.
Well, you'd think it would have to be a sacrifice, in as much as you know he can't run at 100%. He's not really bunting for a hit. Here's Shelby, who hits it in the air down the line and curling foul out of play. 0-1.
So if his leg is bothering him, wouldn't it make more sense for him to try to get a base hit so he wouldn't have to run hard rather than bunting to get the runners over? Doesn't make any sense.
Of course, if you're sacrificing, you don't have to run hard. And
That's
if you hit
true,
a ground ball, you're going to have to run hard because it's going to be a double play if you look at it that way.
But if Kirk Gibson is sacrificing in the first inning, he shouldn't be in the lineup if he's not capable of swinging the bat. I mean, if that's the reason he sacrificed to get to first, why play him?
Certainly not in the number 3 spot.
No.
0-2 the count. Sacks at second, Hatcher at first, and Shelby hits it foul again.
See, there's a lot of theories by managers. I mean, 60% of Kirk Gibson is better than 100% of somebody else. But Gene Mauch always said, at least I know what that 100% is if I don't play a guy that's hurt. And I think that's your point here. I mean, if he can't run on a ground ball, how's he going to play left field?
0-2 to Shelby. Checks his swing, and the count 1-2. Got him. And so the Dodgers bunt their way out of the inning. And at the end of 1, it remains Mets 1, Dodgers nothing.
You may be asking yourself, why didn't David Cone allow this ball to drop?
And look at Steve Sachs. See, Sachs is about halfway. Now, Gibson's not running. You see that in the bottom part of your screen. So the play would have been to second base and first base. But with Cone's control problems, he's just happy to get an out.
At that point.
Yeah, right.
Here's Elster starting the second inning. Elster, Cone, and Dykstra with the Mets on top 1-0. Grounded toward the hole. Hamilton is there, ranging to his left, and throws it by Hatcher and into the photographer as well, and that gives Elster second base automatically. So Hamilton throws it away. The Mets have the leadoff man at second with nobody out. And Tommy Lasorda watches David Cone come to the plate.
I mean, here's a guy that's played well. He did make an error early in the series, but simple play, takes a couple of crow hops and just throws it away. I mean, well out of the reach of Mickey Hatcher at first.
David Cone, 150 during the regular year. He had 12 hits, including 3 doubles, and up there to bunt, takes ball 1. 1-0 the count. Cone squares, 2-0, bunted toward third, fielded by Leary, 1 play first base. Sachs covers, and Cone does his job, advancing Elster to third. So Kevin is there with 1 out, and Len Dykstra comes to the plate.
Center fielder,
Well, this is what you have to do to be successful in the National League as a pitcher. You have to get the runner over. Now he makes a nice bunt. Leary makes a nice play, and Elster moves to third. It's textbook bunting. Bat out in front of the plate.
So Cohn with a sacrifice. Elster at third. The Dodger infield. Hamilton at third is in on the grass, and we'll watch Griffin and Sachs, who right now are halfway. Sachs looking over into the dugout as Len Dykstra stands in.
When Dykstra sees a third baseman that close, a lot of times his feet in the box are moving all over the place. He tries to give the appearance of a bunt and tries to slap it past him. He didn't do it then, though.
Long foul ball, 0-1.
It's a very unusual move, and one with which I don't really agree, because he's got too much movement with his feet. This right here is just a straight swing where he leans on the back part and takes a normal stride. But often with that third baseman in, you'll see him move the feet all around the batter's box and try to pop it by the drawn-in third baseman. And Hamilton's still very shallow at third, as you can see. Lenny, a man of 1,000 stances.
And he gets hit by the pitch. So Dykstra goes to first base. And the Mets have runners at first and third with one out. And Wally Backman coming to the plate. And now Lasorda can play his infield at double play depth.
And Tommy's got to be very anxious, because Leary lost 3 out of his last 5 starts. Cohn won 8 in a row, his last 8 decisions. You take another look. Now he's right on top of the plate. He's trying to pitch him inside. Takes one for the club. Not on purpose. He tried to get out of the way. I mean, but thanks for taking one for the club is what they'll tell him in the dugout as they apply the ethyl chloride to his arm.
Which makes it hurt worse, of course. That spray that ices the bruises never hurts until that stuff goes on there, right?
So runners at first and third with one out. The good news about that situation, man at third hitting the batter, it's not the worst thing in the world, because you get to play your infield at double play depth. However, if you don't get 2 outs from Backman, you still have to face Hernandez, who waits on deck.
Oh, and Dykstra with 30 steals can run. They've only 28 steals off of Leary. 22 have been successful, so it seems he gets rid of the ball quickly, but Scioscia's not been able to throw out very many base runners, only 6 out of 28.
And in the bullpen, Horton and Holton again. So they were up in the first. Holton the right-hander, Horton the lefty. And again, Lasorda back in his regular alignment in the pen. Those 2 long, certainly Holton. Horton he can spot wherever he wants, either long or to face left-handed batters. And then he's got Pena as his setup man tonight, and once again Howell as his closer, and Orozco as well as the left-hander. And it's 2-0.
One of those questions that managers hear often: do you manage any differently in the postseason than you do during the regular season? And I'll guarantee you Tommy Lasorda is managing this game already differently than he would the regular season, because no way anybody would be up with the score 1-0 in the second. He's got 2 guys up now.
And both managers, and obviously
right.
Davey Johnson, it's do or die, period. Your bullpen becomes a man by the name of Holstaff.
Right.
Well, and that's the way he should manage.
Right.
Jim Leland did a great job in Pittsburgh. Said, well, why was Weaver so great? I said, great organization, great players, but he managed every day to win that day, and that's the way Tommy has to do it. He can't say, well, yeah, we got Hershiser tomorrow. You don't know what he's going to do. You can kind of predict he's going to pitch a good game, but you don't know that.
Half swing strike, and the count 2-1 on Backman.
Especially when you consider the only 2 games the Dodgers have lost, Hershiser has started.
Amazing.
This is a split finger fastball. See the bottom drop out of it with a 2-0 count. So Leary and Scioscia going to a little different approach here.
You can really see him swing at the arm action, and that's what makes that pitch so successful. Ball's a lot slower than it appears.
2-2.
And that's really the pitch that made the difference. Last year, 3-11, as I told you earlier, went down to Tijuana and worked on it. He said he read about it in a book. Read how Roger Craig teaches it up in San Francisco. Used it and went from 3-11 to 17-11. gives him that third pitch. He does throw a hard breaking ball. We haven't seen it very often tonight.
And that graphic, which we flashed there, 3 for 3 plus a walk. So Leary's never gotten him out until now on a split finger low and in. And he picked the perfect time to take care of Backman for the first time in their confrontation. 2 down.
Well, now he's got confidence in that pitch, and he's going to start throwing it more often. We said it's never designed to go inside. You saw Socia sitting away, and he had to backhand it to keep it in front of him. Backman missed that ball by 9 inches, and that often happens. You rarely swing under that pitch. You often swing over it.
Here's Hernandez, who struck out in the first inning. Woo! A few things beside the baseball flashed by Keith Hernandez at that point.
This will get your attention. He did lead the staff at 94 miles per hour to definitely get your attention, but he did lead the staff in hits batsmen this year. And right here you can see Keith going in, the ball running back, or he would have gotten hit. 2-0. I doubt if Fernandez is going to swing at a bad pitch.
And it's a ground ball right into the glove of Sachs, who goes to Griffin for the 4th. And so Leary works out of it at the end of an inning and a half. 1-0 Mets. Who painted that picture? Isn't that sensational? Twilight in Los Angeles.
It's like an example of futuristic art. It's beautiful.
And that painting is courtesy of the Goodyear blimp Columbia. Hovering high above Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles with the sun going down on a beautiful day. And in the early evening in Game 6 of the National League Championship Series, Mets ahead 1-0. Mike Socia leads things off. Think of the mood swings and emotion changes in this game already. The Mets break out on top 1-0, which is exactly what they wanted to do. But before the top of the first is over, it's a lift for the Dodgers because Leary gets out by allowing only 1 run, extricates himself from a jam. Then the Dodgers have the emotional high of getting the first 2 men on the bottom of the first. But before that inning is over, it's the Mets who are the beneficiary of the swing as Elster goes into foul ground to make the catch, thanks to Gibson's bunt. Then the Mets again, runners at first and third, 1 out in the second inning, and the Dodgers get the lift by getting out of that inning.
And also you have to understand, I mean, Holton pitched yesterday, Horton pitched yesterday. They've been up throwing every time they have to get up. Not only does that affect them if they have to come in the game today, but also tomorrow. So a lot of angles. And I've again played for Earl Weaver, who said you get 27 outs. Let's take advantage of it. Kirk Gibson did not take advantage of one of those outs back in the first inning.
Hamilton at the plate. To center field, racing in is Dykstra, has to play it on a hop. So Hamilton is on. That's the Dodgers' first hit of the night, and it will bring up Alfredo Griffin. Coming up Saturday on ABC, college football regional action. Check your local listings. The 3rd-ranked Trojans of USC hosting Washington. Some of you will see Michigan against Iowa. And it all begins at 3:30 Eastern Time Saturday here on ABC Sports. Alfredo Griffin, switch-hitting Dodgers shortstop, hit .212 as a left-handed batter during the regular year, 0-1.
Talk about a new season. During the 10 out of 11 that the Mets won, they outscored the Dodgers 49-18. Going into this game, the Dodgers have outscored the Mets 23-22. The 2 best pitching staffs in the National League. ERA for the Mets 4.40. Dodgers are at 3.83. So they've reversed what happened during the season.
Furthermore, the Mets had won 11 in a row at home to end the season. They won the first game, then dropped the next 2.
Griffin pops it up. Backman is there and makes the catch. So 2 down, and Tim Leary is the batter. Well, you go back to 1983, the Dodgers were at the other end of that particular spectrum. They had beaten the Phillies 11 times in 12 meetings during the year, and the Phillies win the playoffs. And leave it to Lasorda, ever the psychologist. Somebody said to him, I think it was Jim, who said, well, will you remind your guys of that to show that you can come from behind and win despite the regular season? And Tommy said, Well, no, I'm not going to tell him about that, but I'm going to tell him about 1974 when the Dodgers lost 11 of 12 to the Pirates and came back to win the playoffs. So we looked it up and found out that it was only 8-4.
Never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That's right. 0-1 to Leary is outside and the count 1-1.
Well, that's what the writer that collaborated with Dave Cohn said.
The interview in the guise of the column, right?
Yes, that one.
Grounded down to Backman. And he throws him out, and the inning is over. No runs a hit, and the man left on. We go to the third in Game 6. 1-0 Mets. Well, what's our song of the night, Tim?
Red Sails in the Sunset. And others to come.
And Tim Leary goes to work as dusk approaches in the third inning, and he's already worked pretty hard. The Mets with the ace and the queen. And
they have done that to Keith Hernandez for the last month and a half because he has been the biggest contributor in the Hearts game. And if you played Hearts, the queen is 13 and all the hearts are 1 point. So that's why they stick that queen of hearts next to, or the queen of spades next to Hernandez's name.
And furthermore, you can deal me that hand in blackjack anytime you want.
Yes, sir.
Strawberry takes a strike as we start the third inning. Strawberry, McReynolds, and Jeffries.
Some pretty illustrious names. The first 8 guys that have a better home run ratio. I think Killebrew, Mays, Ruth,
Ralph
Kiner, Fox, Jimmy Fox,
Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt has done a terrific job in the inside pitch, and you would expect that out of Michael Jack. 542 home runs lifetime, and you have to wonder what his fate is next year.
Exactly. That's one of those stories that kind of gets lost in postseason. Everybody concentrates on the playoffs and the upcoming World Series. One of the stories to be thought about, mulled over during the winter. And certainly Mike will be the first guy mulling it over. Strawberry hits it into center field for a base hit. So Darrell with his 9th hit in the series, the most by any member of the two clubs. The Mets again with the leadoff man aboard. They've gotten the leadoff man on in all 3 innings tonight, and up comes Kevin McReynolds.
Talk about that curl of Darryl Strawberry. You see that bat pointed over the helmet? Now that means he's got a long way to come, so he's got to be quicker than the normal hitter. He doesn't hold the bat straight up and down or flat. He curls it. So he's got further to come, or farther to come, and he came far enough on that
far
swing.
enough, yes.
Right.
He reaches out, and it's off the glove of Griffin, and a big break there for the Mets. As Strawberry goes to second base, look for the moment when Griffin went up as if he'd come down with the ball.
I'll tell you, it looked like his windage was too much toward third base. It looked like the ball hit him on the side of the glove. The heel of the hand. A split finger fastball. It's going to be a base hit. But we'll take a look and see exactly where Griffin missed that ball. It appeared to bounce off the heel of the glove, which means that he either jumped too soon or jumped too far toward third base. See, that ball hits him on the heel of the glove. Very strange. I think he thought possibly that it was hit harder than it was. Consequently, he jumped too high. That ball hit off the end of the bat, but a break for the Mets.
So an infield single. Singles by Strawberry and McReynolds. Runners at first and second. Nobody out. Jeffries, the batter, takes outside. And for the moment, nothing doing in the Dodger bullpen. They've been up in the first and in the second. And we talked about the difference in managing tonight. Tommy Lasorda having 2 men throw early on in both the first and the second, and 1 batter away, I'm sure, from more action there if Jeffries were to get on. 1-1. In fact, it might be less than a batter. Stays alive. 1-2. Leary started his career with the Mets, racked by injury early on, then went to the Brewers, pitched well on occasion there. But then he was traded to the Dodgers in the Greg Brock deal, and Jim detailed what he did in winter ball and developing the split finger. And this year, a 17-game winner.
When George Bamberger was the pitching coach and manager of the New York Mets, he loved Tim Leary, and when he became the manager of the Brewers for the second time, he got Leary in a trade.
2-2. In fact, the Brewers at one point wanted to try to get him back.
Well, yeah, after Tijuana. He commuted from Santa Monica. He went 9-0 down there. He pitched every fourth or fifth day. And they said the border guards kind of looked at him funny when because they don't have shower facilities. He just put his uniform on in Santa Monica, drive down to Tijuana and pitch.
That'll get you stopped at the border. 2-2 pitch is lifted to right field, deep but very playable. Strawberry tags at second. McReynolds is also tagging. Marshall makes the catch, and the throw is cut off as Strawberry advances. So Darrell goes to third. McReynolds remains at first. And with one out now, it'll bring up Gary Carter, who had a golden opportunity in the first inning, coming up with the bases loaded and 2 out, but struck out. McReynolds goes, and it's a fly ball to shallow center field. Strawberry is tagging, but Shelby is there to make the catch, and Darrell has no chance. A little pop fly, not nearly deep enough with McReynolds going. So he retreats to first, and now Elster comes up, and Carter has left 5 men on in his first 2 at-bats.
Well, it's a good theory by Davy Johnson. What he's trying to do is get Gary Carter just to concentrate on making contact. A hit-and-run play, you don't often see it to a power hitter, but Gary Carter, a different hitter now. McReynolds running, he takes a look, and that's what you want to do if you're on first base. Take 3 steps and look for the ball. He found it. You can't trust the second baseman and shortstop to give you the accounting of where the ball is. Frustration continues for Carter.
The Mets have already left 5 men on tonight, and now with 2 out and 2 on, Elster comes to the plate. Elster, earlier this season, 2 homers in a game off Leary. And the count is 1-0. And here, in a situation with a base open, even though it's not first, there's no reason to throw Elster anything even half decent with a pitcher on deck.
Well, he threw him 2 split-finger fastballs. I talked to him before the game, and he said they were just, I didn't have a good one. Reminds me of Jack Morris, when early in the year Jack was struggling. He said they're just kind of spitting at my split finger. They kind of ignore it. And basically, the problem Larry's having tonight, doesn't have great control with his fastball.
And he's behind 2-0.
Interesting situation. You mentioned with the base open, even though it's not open at second base. Psychologically, managers don't like to intentionally walk a base runner into scoring position. If he's there, there'd be no question that they would walk Elster here. But from a psychological standpoint, it makes a little sense. You don't like to intentionally walk a base runner into scoring position. That's what you'd be doing if you walked him intentionally here.
And he lines one to the gap in left center. Shelby races over, can't make the play. Strawberry scores. McReynolds will be held as Griffin cuts the throw off on a double by Elster. So 2-0 to the number 8 hitter. And Tim just talking about the fact you really don't want to walk him in that particular situation because you're putting the extra man in scoring position. But Leary down the middle on a 2-0 pitch, and the Mets take advantage and lead it by a score of 2-0.
And the Mets are probably glad that the hit and run didn't work. If McReynolds, say Carter hits an anemic ground ball back to the pitcher, well, Leary's plays to first base, you got second and third, and most certainly you walk Elster, but not in this situation. So the hit and run backfiring, and Elster, they're forced to pitch to him, and he delivers.
Well, 2 things backfire, too, because you don't get the number 8 hitter. If you get Elster, you're out of the inning. Now, even if you get Cone, at least the Mets are to the top of the order in the 4th. So a big hit, 2-0. Cone is the batter with runners at second and third, and he fouls it back, and the count is 0-1. And again, Cone, during the regular season, hit 150. He was 12 for 80. And it's squibbed right into the glove of Hamilton. So Leary continues to struggle. At the end of 2.5, it's 2-0 Mets. And he lines one to the gap in left center. Shelby races over, can't make the play. Strawberry scores. McReynolds will be held as Griffin cuts the throw off on a double by Elster. 2-0 Mets, but they have stranded 7 through 3. We go to the bottom of the third. David Cone has been sensational. Not ours, folks. Trust me, not ours. Old days. Back to the game. We're talking about Cone against right-handed batters. And David this year almost unhittable, facing guys coming up from the right side, and we'll get to it in a second. There it is. As you can see, they've been keeping these charts in 75 in this category. Cone against righties held them to a 165 average this season. And he gets sacks, a right-handed batter, to ground to Elster, dug out by Hernandez. So 1 down in the third inning, and it brings up Mickey Hatcher.
And if you go back to game 2, the amazing thing about it is that of the 6 hits he gave up, 5 were to right-handers. Now, they weren't, you know, of course, when he described his pitching performance, he said, I really wasn't very good. A couple balls were hit hard, but a lot of them went through the infield. 5 of the 6 were right-handed hitters. He was totally out of sync.
Hatcher hits a fly ball to left field. McReynolds is there. 2 down. So 2 away in the bottom of the third inning. Mets on top 2-0. Really 2 stories in the game so far. The Mets have scored twice, but they really squandered a golden opportunity to break this game open by stranding 7. And the other key thing would have been that Gibson bunt with runners at first and second and nobody out in the first inning.
Well, you know, Leary beat every team in the National League except the Mets this year. So, and then, of course, the last time he pitched against them, the 4 home runs, and he's been struggling. Of course, we're only guessing about Kirk Gibson's health. You know, like you said, it's not broken, I'll play, and even if it's slightly broken, he's going to play. So maybe he did that out of necessity. You can see him favoring that back leg.
One and two.
Oh, he's
hurt.
really hurt.
He's hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt. Yep.
Just another look at a split finger fastball. Let's concentrate on the swing, though. That left leg, see how he just drags it? Normally that is the leg he pushes off. He just gives a nice quick hip turn normally, but see how he's just kind of favoring and almost goes down to his knees.
Hitting off his front foot. That's what he did again.
And he pops this one up to Carter. And David Cone, after a very rocky start, has settled down. And at the end of 3, it remains Mets 2, Dodgers nothing. We go to the 4th inning at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver. Game 6 for the National League Championship Series. If the Dodgers win, they win the pennant. If the Mets win, there's a 7th game tomorrow night to determine the pennant. 2-0 New York with Len Dykstra leading off in the 4th. Top of the order, Dykstra, Backman, and Hernandez, and Gary Carter, who's left 5 men on base tonight, shaking his head.
I think that's what you alluded to when you said the old Gary Carter in the first game. They were playing him. He just hasn't swung the bat well.
Popped up back of 3rd. Hamilton is there. And out number 1. So Dykstra gone, and that'll bring up Wally back.
Of course, a catcher can be much more instrumental than just swinging a bat, and Gary has done an excellent job. When you look at the Mets pitching staff, hasn't thrown a lot of runners out this year, but they don't really hold them on that well. But when you have a pitching staff that leads the National League in earned run average, Mackey Sasser and Gary Carter have done an outstanding job blocking balls, calling the pitches.
Backman takes a strike, and the count 0-1. That's hit into right field for a base, and Hatcher just froze on it.
Yeah, he did.
It was amazing. You know, we talked about this a couple of times, and not to beat it to death, but the Dodgers at first base have had that revolving door. And again, Marshall started the season there, and they moved Guerrero over there, and they ended up with a Stubbs-Hatcher combo, and Mickey just freezes here.
Well, again, you just like base running, if you lean the wrong way, and he did, you don't have a chance. And you know, I talked to him before the game because he got in in the way of some balls that I think that Steve Sachs could have fielded, and he said, you know, sort of said, you're the first baseman. You know, we have a second baseman.
So he may be overly conscious of going to his right, and it certainly appeared there. He just watched it go by.
Here's Hernandez, and Backman goes as Keith fouls it away. 0-1. Hernandez has struck out and grounded out, and Keith tonight has come up with 4 men on base in front of him and failed to produce.
It seems as though the Mets are playing a much more aggressive game tonight. Davey Johnson has told his troops that we got to come out running. The Backman and Dykstra hit and run play in the first inning, setting up 1 run, and then the hit and run there, the ball was fouled back. You may see it again here, 1-1.
Meanwhile, the Dodger bullpen busy again for the 4th consecutive inning. Up in the first, up in the second, up in the third. And there's Horton and Holton again.
Well, they're playing Met baseball not of 1988, but more of 1986. This year they didn't advance runners well. They did have a home run mentality.
As Hernandez, it's a grounder toward the middle. Sachs gobbles it up to Griffin 1, the first double play. And Hernandez has stranded 5 men tonight. 2-0 after 3.5. Guys, we've seen everything in this series, from parkas to shirt sleeves.
We really have. Short sleeve shirts.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have dared to wear short sleeve shirts on Saturday and Sunday.
It was 43 degrees Saturday and about 86 this afternoon as Marshall fouls it back. And the count 0-1.
I know that irritated me. I said from short sleeves to long underwear, and then Randy Myers shows up in about the 8th inning with short sleever on.
Right.
It's like Steve Stone the year he won the Cy Young Award. I mean, it didn't matter if it was April or September, 30 degrees or 90 degrees, short sleever.
Mike Marshall leading off in the bottom of the 4th inning with a count 1-1. Marshall, Shelby, and Scioscia with the Mets on top 2-0. If there's not a game 7, as Wendelstedt at first base says he came around and the count's 1-2.
Mike Marshall becomes a very important hitter with Gibson possibly hurt as you take another look at the swing. Definitely a swing, 7 hits already.
Cone drops down with a breaking pitch, grounded foul. If there isn't a game 7, then there'd be a World Series game here on Saturday. Oakland at Los Angeles.
See, he stayed in, and Mike Schmidt said he has a good fastball. He has stayed with it. He had trouble with it in the first inning, but he stayed with it. And I think you'll see him a lot more breaking balls as the game progresses. There's a split finger.
Right down there, his 5th split finger of the game by an unofficial count. And that's 6 in a row retired by Cone and his 2nd strikeout.
So you're just swinging at the arm action, and the ball tumbles way out in front. As Timmy said, most of the time, this will be a great angle. You swing over the ball, about 4 or 5 inches. Even though you're following him, you could see he didn't pull his head. Went right with it. Ball just dropped faster than he could get the bat into that zone.
Well, it stands to reason that you'd swing over the ball because of the tumbling action. To be effective, as you mentioned earlier, Jim, the split finger is usually out of the strike zone down, and it gives you the appearance that it's going to be higher than it usually is. And once you commit, it drops, and it drops late. Therefore, you swing over the top of it.
Strike. 0-1. Funny thing about Shelby, he's a guy who doesn't walk a lot, but he's drawn a couple of very key walks in this series, in particular the one in front of Scioscia's home run.
Well, Timmy, you said that's the key to that particular incident.
So did Doc Gooden.
Then Doc Gooden comes back and says the same thing. He said, I throw the same pitch to Scioscia, the fastball, because that's usually his best pitch, but I try to throw it in a different area. And I think the fact that he walked John Shelby, felt he had to establish the strike zone again and didn't maybe throw it as well as he could, and Scioscia hit only the 4th home run of the season.
And Shelby got on strikes, and that's 3 strikeouts for David Cone. So 2 down in the 4th inning, and Mike Scioscia coming up.
Oh, just great mechanics. I mean, look at the chin to the shoulder, the intent on his eyes, and then he just throws the ball right by him, and the way he did that was he hit the inside corner.
Well, the eyes have it.
Yes, they do. You know, the thing about Cone, if you don't know him, and most of the country gets to know these guys in playoff situations, he's a terrific guy. He really is. And if you go by that article the other day, or his supposed column, I'm sure if you don't know David Cone, who is this guy, and how can he say these things?
Well, a lot of times, I think that's what motivated the Dodgers. They don't know Dave Cone. He's his second year in the league.
1-2 the count, and it's sort of like, well, we touched upon it in the pregame. It's Jay Howell. You know what Jay Howell was upset about? He was not that upset necessarily about the suspension. He agreed it was illegal, but it's the perception that he was cheating. To center field, and Dykstra backs up and makes the catch. At the end of 4, 2-0 Mets. Back after this from your local station.
With the writer's strike in effect since early March, Late Night with David Letterman has been strictly a rerun city. So as a public service, and that Dave has not been in front of a camera in months and is undoubtedly stale, we here on the pregame show are providing an opportunity for him to get back to it. So earlier this week at Shea Stadium, we arranged for Dave to interview pitcher David Cone, who has had a standout year for the New York Mets. He's emerged with a record of 9-1 coming off that victory over the Cubs yesterday afternoon. So here it is. Dave, I know it's been a while since your last
4 months,
TV
Mark.
appearance,
4 months
but you
since I've
have
been on TV.
You have to pull yourself together.
Yeah,
This
I
will
know.
be good for you.
This will be a little training exercise for me.
Absolutely. This is David Cone of the New York
David.
Mets.
Nice to see you.
David
How are
Letterman
you?
and Dave, good luck. It's all
Thank
yours.
you very much. I used to have a television show on NBC.
Yeah, I watched it a couple of times.
Moderately successful.
Yeah, moderately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, Marv, we certainly enjoy those non-title bouts from Italy.
Thank you very much.
More of those, please.
More of the fight doctor also.
Yeah. So I thought what I'd do is I made some notes here, and we're just going to like do kind of a dummy interview. Is that all right?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Are you relaxed?
Yeah, fairly relaxed.
Okay. As a boy growing up, you did grow up as a boy, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Did you have dreams of becoming a major league pitcher?
Yes, Dave, I did. I dreamed since the day I could pick up a wiffle ball bat that I'd play for the Kansas City Royals.
And you did, didn't you?
I actually did. I lived out that dream, and it didn't last too long. But
well, the problem was the wiffle ball bat.
That was it, yeah.
I don't think I've lost it, Marv. As a boy, I also had a dream. I dreamed that one day I would grow up and become a major league bullpen catcher.
That's an inspiring.
Yeah. All right, David, I have some questions for you here that I jotted down when I knew Marv was arranging this for us. Okay. First question. At the end of the season, thank you, do you get to keep your uniform?
Yeah, we do, as long as we promise not to sell it.
Not to sell it.
Yeah, we have to actually keep it.
Okay. All right.
That was a good one, Dave.
I don't have a follow-up for that.
That was good.
All right. Number 3 here. Would you ever say you're in a real tight game? Say you're working on a no-hitter like you were not too long ago. Would you ever consider throwing a game to avoid being on Kiner's corner?
You know, now that you mention it, I might have to give that some thought.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly seems to be the reasonable reply there. All right. Okay. Now here's one. This is like a story problem. In math, you'd have story problems. Who do you think weighs more now, Los Angeles Dodger manager Tommy Lasorda or Cincinnati Reds owner Marge Schott?
I think it's neck and neck right now.
Yeah, it is pretty close, isn't it?
It's a toss-up.
Yeah. Okay, number 5. Oh, this is good. You have to apply a little logic here. You and I have something in common. You grew up in Kansas City. I grew up in Indianapolis. You're playing Major League Baseball, and I used to have a television show. But we have something else in common. Do you know what that is?
Not right offhand.
Okay. When you and I work, when we both go to work, both of us wear a cup.
We'll both wear a cup, huh?
Yeah.
What's the purpose for you?
Oh, come on. You haven't seen the show, have you?
Yes, I have. Okay, I can
Okay. All right, now, how are we doing on time, Marv?
We're closing in on the conclusion.
Okay, I have one final question. This is another one I want you to think. Just let your mind run wild. Which would you rather have now? Now think about this seriously. A career-threatening injury. Think about it. You're 25. You're thinking you got the world ahead of you. You're looking at Cooperstown. Everything has fallen into place. But think about this. Would you rather have a career-threatening injury or Whitey Herzog's haircut?
I think I'd rather blow out my knee.
Coincidentally, Whitey blew out his hair, I believe. This has been great fun. Thanks, Marv.
And that Whitey does have a fine sense of humor. I know that he will not be upset with Dave Letterman or David Cohn. I, in this particular situation, merely an innocent bystander.
Fifth inning at Dodger Stadium in Game 6. Mets leading 2-0. Strawberry, McReynolds, and Jeffries with Tim Leary on the mound. And Darrell standing in, having walked and singled, and he has 9 hits in 24 at-bats. 375 during the playoffs. Fifth inning. Tim Leary has struggled through 4, but at least the Dodgers are very much in the game. It's 2-0 Mets. Just to button up that Jay Howell thing, Jim, I talked to him extensively before the game, and as I said, he was very concerned about the perception. He was very concerned that people would think that he went out there to cheat, when in effect he went out there and did what a lot of other guys do all the time.
Well, that's true, and when I said on the air that I never did it, I wasn't trying to take a holier-than-thou situation, but I played with some great pitchers that didn't either, and apparently it's become very prevalent. I think they have to really consider maybe a rule change. He did break the rules.
And he admits it.
Yes, oh, exactly. And, you know, it's kind of like speeding. When you tell the officer, well, everybody else was speeding, why am I going to get the ticket? And they don't have a lot of compassion. I think that here's a guy that had a great year, and maybe people do have a different perception of him when they shouldn't.
Well, the other night you called it jaywalking. That was the best analogy. Strawberry draws the walk, and you can bet the bullpen will get up again as Tim Leary starts the 5th inning with a walk, and Lasorda's going to take a little walk himself as McReynolds comes up.
I think it's interesting to note from the Howell and Cohn situation that after it happened, the Mets fans were forgiving of Howell, and after Cohn apologized, judging from the reaction tonight, the Dodger fans are forgiving of Cohn. I think that's very unusual.
Yep.
Well, they were both very honest, too. I mean, talk about stand-up guys.
Yep.
Cohn said, I said it facetiously. I didn't think it was going to be written that way. Heat of an emotional ball game.
But still, in the playoffs, you don't find, you know, the masses as forgiving, I think, as the two towns have been.
McReynolds doesn't find that pitch forgiving as he drills it to deep left center field and gone. And it was almost inevitable because Leary's been on a tightrope in each inning. And he begins the 5th by walking Strawberry, and McReynolds hits a 2-run homer to make it 4-0.
McReynolds looking inside. If you remember the last time up, Leary jammed him with the fastball inside. The Dodgers have been pitching McReynolds inside, and this time he goes up and looks for one pitch in one area, and again, this is after 4 balls to Strawberry.
Again, trying to establish a strike and really reestablish your confidence. As you can see, Tommy not very happy.
It's a similar situation after Gooden walked Shelby the other night. First pitch, Socia, boom, out of here. Tonight, 4 balls to Strawberry. McReynolds, boom, out of here. And it goes back to a pitcher being too cautious and too aware of the strike zone after he walks a hitter. So it's not necessarily the walk, it's what happens after.
And Peronoski goes to the mound, and boom, it's Leary out of here. 4-0 in the 5th inning in Game 6.
But still, in the playoffs, you don't find, you know, the masses as forgiving, I think, as the two towns have been.
McReynolds doesn't find that pitch forgiving as he drills it to deep left center field and gone.
Everybody talks about how you have to pitch inside, but not after a base on ball to Strawberry. McReynolds, no doubt looking fastball, gets it, opens up, scores 4-0.
Well, that's a danger of pitching inside. All good hitters, you have to jam them. But the problem with that is that if you miss inside, it's a long ball. If you miss away, it's a single.
Leary winds up throwing 87 pitches in 4+ innings, gives up 4 runs, 6 hits. And Brian Holton comes into work here in the 5th inning. He'll face Jeffries with nobody out, and then Carter on deck. Mets trying to square the series and send us to a 7th game tomorrow. Hershiser and Darling would be the matchup at 8 o'clock Eastern. Brian Holton on in relief, induces a grounder to Hatcher, and Jeffries gone. One down. Holton the other night, Tim, was talking about being so nervous coming into the game. He started singing a little song to himself in the bullpen.
It was amazing. He said he was so nervous, in order to relax, he started singing the song, "You take the high road, I'll take the low road." And he started singing it quite melodically as he was warming up. And while he was walking in, he's telling his mother this in a phone call the next day.
Carter popping it up, and Scioscia's there, and one catcher will retire the other easily. 2 down.
While he was walking in, he was thinking of his father, Holton, that is. His father's name is John, lives in Houston, and thinking of his dad. And he told his mother that she asked him if he was nervous during that relief appearance. He said, no, as a matter of fact, I was singing, "You take the high road and I'll take the low road." And he said, you know, I've never heard that song. And she said, yes, you have. Your father sang it to you when you were a child. So unknowingly, the words come out from the subconscious and the song flows. That is a weird story, but that's the story Brian related to me before the ball game tonight.
That's a cover story for Psychology Today. I gotta tell you.
It really is. Telling his mother he didn't know the words to the song. He doesn't even remember hearing the song. And she said, yes, you did. Your dad sang it to you as an infant.
Breaking ball is hit to left field, deep but playable. Backing up is Gibson, and he makes the catch. In the inning, 2 runs, 1 hit to McReynolds homer after 4.5. That's 4. Dodgers nothing. Early rally cap for the Dodgers, who already trail 4-0 as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. And Tommy Lasorda looking at the bottom of the order coming up with Hamilton leading off. He'll be followed by Griffin, and then Holton spot, so the Dodgers are busy in the bullpen again. Fernando Valenzuela in uniform but ineligible for the playoffs. He's not on the playoff roster. As Hamilton lifts a soft fly ball to right field. Strawberry is there. 1 away, and Griffin coming up.
Had an interesting talk with General Manager Fred Clare about Fernando. Fernando with the shoulder problems, did some exercises for the first time in his career, has a home in Mexico and here in Los Angeles, and going to be doing them all winter. They expect him to be back throwing, get some arm strength. Same with Mario Soto. He's pitching down for, I think, Escogido in the Dominican Republic. May pitch, but he's down there with Phil Reagan, who I think managed their AAA ball club, and they hope to see, really, to try to do some things that'll get them back into the major leagues.
Griffin at the plate, up high. If the Dodgers win the pennant, I mean, think about it, even if they don't, just by winning the division, without the real Valenzuela this year, he was 5-8. And keep in mind, too, another thing we haven't even mentioned during the playoff series, when the year began, Don Sutton was the #3 starter. Hershiser was #1. The crowd now gets into it as Griffin runs the count to 3-0. And this is what has amounted to a recent Dodger rally. Cone has been that sharp. But Hershiser was 1, Valenzuela 2, Sutton 3. You got one guy who goes 5-8, and Don released in mid-year as Griffin takes a strike, and you're still able to win the division.
Of course, Don being released after he did get injured did not score a lot of runs for him. And it got to the point where really 5 or 6 innings, and if you get up in years, and I went through this, and you don't get a lot of runs, it makes it very tough to pitch.
3-2 line to center field. In comes Dykstra, makes the catch. Len Dykstra got a good jump on the ball. And Lasorda has watched Cone retire the last 10 in a row. So 2 down, and now Lasorda has to not go to the bench. He opts to send Holton up here.
What makes this, excuse me, Jimmy, what makes that play easy is what you talk about all the time. Griffin doesn't hit the ball very deep or very hard. Play shallow. Very likely the ball is going to go over your head, and your first move is in. Dykstra, the better defensive outfielder between Mookie Wilson and Lenny.
Now, had Griffin gotten on, you would have seen a pinch hitter here with a man on and a chance to get back into the game. But with 2 out, bases empty, Lasorda lets Holton hit. Bryan this season rarely came to the plate, just 10 times, and he was 0 for 10. That's wrapped to left field, shallow left, and in for a base hit. So leave it to Bryan Holton without a hit all season to pick up the Dodgers' second hit of the night.
After David Cohn had retired 10 in a row. As a matter of fact, after the walk to Mickey Hatcher in the first inning, only 1 base runner has been allowed by Cohn through the next 4 2/3 innings until the hit by Holton. That was a single by Hamilton in the second.
In his career, he had 1 hit. 1 for 20 during the regular year, so a base hit here. Hernandez can play back of him. Sachs at the plate, and the pitch up 5-0-1. Well, the crowd is trying to get back in the game. The Mets said tonight it was very important to get off to an early lead, which they've done, take the crowd out of the game, which they've done. And now the Dodgers try to scramble back. 2-0.
You have to remember he has not thrown from the stretch for about 3 innings, so it takes you a while to get a little bit loose. I don't know if I would assume he's going to be talking about Sachs, but he ought to get an awfully good pitch to hit here because Cohn's going to throw right to the center of the plate.
It's amazing how even Tommy's saying make the ball be down, but even how the crowd overreacts during the playoffs. Who in the world would cheer a 2-out single by the pitcher when your team's trailing 4-0 during the regular season?
Well, they cheered the 2-0 pitch to Griffin, which was ball 3 earlier in the inning.
Right.
And Sachs takes ball 4. So with 2 out, Holton a single, Sachs a walk, and it brings up Mickey Hatcher, who has walked and flied out, and Hernandez goes to the mound to settle down Cohn.
What do you do now, Timmy? I mean, Hatcher walked 4 times, 197 at-bats during the regular season. You take a pitch, have him swinging?
I say go to hacking right here. For the same reason McReynolds was hacking after 4 straight balls to Strawberry. 1 swing can put you back in the game.
Got the corner. Fastball for a strike. 0-1.
2 schools of thought to that. One is that the pitcher will remain wild. The other school is that the pitcher is going to have to throw a strike, and that's what Cohn did then.
Grounded to the right side. It's a base hit. Holton is being waved in. Here comes Strawberry's throw home, and Holton is safe.
Strawberry, very tentative. I mean, when a pitcher, a long reliever, who has had his first hit all year, scores that easily, then you're playing a tentative right field. Darrell had 2 assists all season long. Both were on throws to first base. That ball was hit sharply to right field. If it can't be any closer than that, then you have to think that Strawberry was too deep to begin with, or he didn't charge the ball. He appeared to charge the ball, which means he was too deep to start with.
Now Gibson fouls it back. So the crowd totally back in the game, 4-1, and since this is Hollywood, here's Gibson. The injured Gibson is the tying run.
I'd say I know Weaver down in Florida is rolling over because he would say 4 runs down, you better play deep and stay away from it. So you're probably right, but
that's fine. But Kurt Gibson certainly, but not Mickey Hatcher in right field. That's fine. Into the pull position, that's one thing. Not Mickey Hatcher when you're a right fielder. Naturally, you play deep with Gibson hitting. But if you're Mickey Hatcher and you're the right fielder somewhere, if you're too deep, Mickey Hatcher has 1 home run all year. Understandable for the center fielder and right fielder to be deep in this situation. 1 swing ties the game.
And the infield can play a little deeper too right here because of Gibson's leg. It's popped up. Back of third. Jeffries is there, and that's that. So the Dodgers settle for 1, leave 2 into 5, 4-1 New York.
It looks like Gibson with a severe crouch. Now watch his left leg. Once again, he lifts it up. It seems that he's trying to get the ball lower in the strike zone and went after a high fastball.
And as we mentioned earlier, it seems that, and you can see him favoring that left leg, which is wrapped, and he's really a front foot hitter tonight, and he normally is not like that. I'd like to clear up one thing. I said that Darryl Strawberry had 2 assists. He had 4 assists this season, 1 on a throw to home when a pitcher was running in Atlanta, and 3 times a 9-3 double play on a hit and run play where the runners all the time on all 3 occasions were decoyed at second base. So a guy with that strong an arm should have more assists. That's my point.
2-2 to Cone. Is squibbed up the first baseline, fielded by Holton, who throws him out. 1 away. Holton has retired the 4-man he has faced, and it will bring up Len Dykstra. 4-1 Mets, and if the Mets win, the decisive 7th game would be played tomorrow at 8 Eastern time and 5 o'clock Pacific if necessary. It's the Mets and the Dodgers in Game 7, and it would be Ron Darling against Oral Hershiser.
I think what it really comes down to, Tim Leary, I mean, he did have a kind of a rough 5 innings or 4+ innings, but he's been the least supported starter on the Dodgers. I mean, average under 3 runs a game for him.
Dykstra hits one to the gap in left center field. Gibson goes over gingerly to cut it off. Dykstra on his way to second, in there head first with a double.
When I talk about run support for Leary, it's really under 4 runs a game, so the same thing is happening tonight. And
Len Dykstra really taking advantage of the elements right there. That was outstanding base running by Dykstra. Watch Gibson go to his left, and one doesn't know how he would have reacted and thrown the ball had he been healthy. But see, you can see by that throw, he's throwing off his front foot too. He wanted the call, but he didn't get it. Good base running by Dykstra.
In the Dodger bullpen, Ricky Horton gets up again. So Len Dykstra with his first hit of the night and his 4th hit in the series.
Well, it makes that play so easy. The play is in front of you. You don't have to get any help. You'll get some help from the first base coach. He'll tell you maybe to go, but you can pretty much make up your mind, especially if you're an aggressive runner like Lenny.
The Dodgers have been buying some time here. Here comes Peronoski to the mound. Now you've got Backman, the switch hitter, but he's really a left-handed batter because he rarely comes up right-handed, and there's a tremendous disparity. So in effect, he's a left-handed batter, and then you've got Hernandez and Strawberry, and that's why you've got Ricky Horton in the bullpen, and probably very shortly in the ballgame.
One last thing that I'd like to say about that, the question that comes to my mind about Kirk Gibson is, who do you choose to tell him he's not playing?
Right.
I mean, that might be the reason he's in there.
Maybe Too Tall Jones.
Yeah, you have to hire somebody to tell him he's not playing.
Yeah. Maybe about 4 guys. In from the bullpen will come Ricky Horton. 4-1 Mets. Ricky Horton comes in to pitch for the Dodgers with 1 out and Dykstra at second base in the 6th inning. Horton appearing in his 4th game of 6. Now Backman, and they turned Backman around, which is what you like to do. As a right-handed batter this year, he had 257. As a left-handed batter, 309. And actually, that's not bad for Wally, because normally the disparity is much greater than that.
Well, he really had a terrific year when you consider he wasn't going to play. Tupple was the starter. Talk about intensity. He has to play with that kind of intensity. You see his career stats, much better from the left side.
Last year, he had 086 against left-handed pitching. He grounds it to the left side, fielded by Hamilton, looks the runner back, and almost handcuffs Hatcher at first base. But Mickey holds on, and there are 2 down. Oh, no graphic necessary. Joe D.
Well, this is a fairly routine play. We talked about Hamilton. Good range, soft hands, and you see his arm. He looked at second base, and Dykstra, and that's the difficult part of the play. ball must have sailed, or is one of those in between where you don't want to really catch it with your glove up and you get handcuffed. And as a catcher, Tim, you know with that pitch, you're going to receive it with your glove down, and it just moves.
You know, that shot at DiMaggio should be put in a time capsule. I mean, that's a slice of Americana. 1988. Joe D at a baseball game with a bag of peanuts. 1-0 to Hernandez is outside, ball 2. Strike, 2-1.
I don't think any American athlete has ever carried himself with the grace after his playing days were over that Joe DiMaggio did. And has. And is and will.
Fouled away in the count, 2-2.
Talk about Horton coming in and pitching yesterday. They acquired him for a very good young pitcher, Sean Hilligus. Went to the White Sox to trade for him. He said he pitched the entire spring, did not give up a run, and then just got in an awful bad rut. All his pitches were up. He can't do that. He has to keep them down, away from especially the lefties.
What he's trying to do here, he's trying to get to the World Series for the 3rd time in 4 years. Twice with the Cards, 85, 87, and here with the Dodgers.
I'll tell you, that's an interesting shot, too. Sosha, we've seen him do it several times tonight. Hold the glove inside and then go outside at the last moment. He may be thinking that Hernandez, Carter, and some of the Mets are peaking, and that's how you prevent peaking. See, he's setting up late here.
He sets up away, and Hernandez hits it foul off to the left. Still 2-2 on Keith.
That pitch before, he had the target inside, and at the last minute floated outside.
Now he'll move one way and then go the other way here. Sosha just waits, as you said, to the last moment. And that's important. You have to see the glove. I mean, otherwise you're going to throw the ball in the middle of the plate.
3-2.
You do that especially with the runner at second base, because while he may not have the signs, he may be telling the hitter where the location is of the pitch. One of the two makes it a very favorable thing for a hitter. So if a catcher sets up too early, then it's a simple hand sign for the runner at second base, in or out, and that gives the hitter a very big advantage.
3-2, it's foul again.
What allows Hernandez to have that type of stats against the left-handers, the way he goes into the ball? I mean, he's willing to get jammed just to make contact.
He's protecting away right now, but as far as Horton is concerned, Horton's best pitch is the slider and fastball away.
And this is away, and it's in the air to shallow left center, and dropping for a base hit. Dykstra comes in to score on a soft single by Hernandez. And it's 5-1 Mets.
Well, that's the aggressive baseball. Dykstra stretches a single into a double. Hernandez does what he does best, fights off pitches until he gets one he can hit. Did hit it hard, right on the end of the bat for a base hit. I'll tell you, they called it. Picked up the LA Times this morning. They said, we're going to have to be more aggressive.
Now Strawberry with a perfect night. 2 walks and a single, and he has scored twice. Strike, 0-1.
With those 9 hits, not only is he 1 shy of the National League Championship Series record, he's 2 shy of the Major League Championship Series record. Chris Chambliss, that remarkable 1976 against the Royals, had 11, and Marty Barrett had 11 against the California Angels back in '86.
The funny thing is, too, when you talk about series records in the League Championship Series, keep in mind it used to be a best of 5, and it was for the first 16 years of LCS play, and it was only in 1985 that they went to the best of 7 format. So those guys who did it before '85, that's particularly impressive. There goes Hernandez. The pitch is up and in, and they weren't holding him on, and so Keith says, I'll take second, and he does. Thank you very much.
It's an interesting contrast. You talked about Keith being out for almost, over 2 months with a right hamstring pull. He criticized Gibson for running yesterday. And here he goes himself. Now, he should have taken it, but if he hurts himself, turnabout's fair play, I would say. Makes it easily.
He
Well, not
criticized
easily,
Gibson in a good way, too.
Yes.
You know, he said he would love to be on the same team as him, but sometimes you got to use your head. So that may be criticism, but it was complimented before the criticism.
No swing here, 2-2. But that's a terrific point you make, because that story coming out today, Hernandez, as you see Keith going into second, talking about Gibson yesterday, and Gibson saying to Keith when he got to first base in the 9th inning, I think I injured it again, but he still sold second. Strawberry takes Paul, strike 3. And here's Hernandez stealing second with a 4-run lead, but to no avail as it turns out. At the end of 5.5, 5-1 Mets.
I'm going to show you how to make the best cup of coffee you ever tasted in just seconds with Mr. Coffee Automatic Drip Coffee Maker. Coffee in here, cold water here. It's the fastest coffee maker you can buy, with a patented system that gives you perfectly brewed coffee in seconds. Coffee that tastes better than percolated. Once you taste this, you'll know why Mr. Coffee is the #1 selling drip coffee maker. Mr. Coffee.
He has been next to brilliant outside of the 5th inning when the Dodgers rallied for a run with 2 down. He leads 5-1, and the Coneheads are back. Short-lived the other night. By the time the Coneheads got here, Cone was heading out of here. But tonight, a whole other story. Mike Marshall leads off, going after an inside fastball, 0-1.
Well, there's been a lot of flack. You know, they made the trade for Cone for the catcher Ed Hearn, and everybody said, well, you know, they criticized that trade. Yet he, with 9-15, 8-12, the 2 previous years, they thought Hearn was going to. As you look at his pitching things, Hearn was going to be the regular catcher. And then, of course, they trade Danny Jackson for Kurt Stillwell. He becomes an all-star shortstop. Jackson wins 23 games.
You know, in defense of John Schuerholz, though, I mean, Charlie Liebrandt came to that club for nothing, and Charlie ends up winning 18 games or so in '85, and Kansas City wins the World Series. So it's the, what have you done for me lately, Central, again.
For a change.
Yeah.
Marshall chasing it, and down he goes. And for Cone, 4 strikeouts, including Marshall twice. And the man he has struck out the other 2 times is coming to the plate now, John Shelby.
And the key is to get ahead. 0-2, split finger. You really don't want to take that pitch. Again, I think Mike Marshall thought that ball was going to be a strike or close to a strike, and then the last moment it just drops, and that's what makes that pitch so effective.
1-0.
Joe McIlvain, who's vice president with the Mets in charge of player personnel, said that he really felt all the speaking, talking about public speaking that Dave Cone did last year, really had a lot to do with maybe maintaining some more poise. Last year you could be able to tell how he was pitching from his face. Of course, he said he got a lot of banquet. Number one, they thought he was Jewish, and really Cone is from Mick Cone. And he said also, Mookie Wilson and Tim Tuffle are the only 2 guys that stayed in town. They were getting 2,500 and 2,000. I went for 1,000. Everybody wanted me. A lot of bar mitzvahs.
Well, Jay Horowitz, the Mets PR director, was telling us earlier this season he was getting requests from Israeli newspapers. We'd like to talk to this fella Cone. And Jay said, no, there's no H in this Cone. 2-2. Shelby down on strikes for the 3rd time. 2 down, and Scioscia coming to the plate. So Shelby chases a high fastball. Lasorda playing for Riley's father in Schenectady. And I heard Tommy telling the story the other day. He couldn't spell Schenectady, so when he'd write home, he said, I'm 10 miles from Albany. Scioscia at the plate. He's 0 for 2. 6th inning rally caps. Mike Davis and Rick Dempsey. 2-2. Harry Wendelstedt, the first base umpire, he would be back of the plate if we go to 7 tomorrow night. Whence he came. He was the home plate umpire in Game 1. And here's the right field foul line umpire, Bob Davidson. That's a temporary gate. Those first 3 rows were added. And so he does a little repair work. Meanwhile, postseason history, best of 7 series. That would include all World Series and the playoffs since 1985. And as you can see, when a team trails 3 games to 2, 64% of the time they've come back to win it. So this one, according to Hoyle, to this point, 2-2. To win the 6th game, that is, down 3-2.
Well, would it stand to reason that it's like that because a lot of teams, like the Dodgers, saving their ace for the 7th game? That's certainly one of the reasons.
Or they set up the rotation to have their ace pitch that game.
And I think there's another thing here, too. The psychology coming to the park. Back to the wall, you know you've got to win. If you lead 3-2, you come and you say, all we have to do is play 500 baseball. You got to go 1-1. But all of a sudden, 500 becomes having to play 1,000. And that's what the Dodgers will have to do as they're down to their last 9 outs. We go to the 7th, 5-1 Mets.
When lunch and a day at the park are too much for Tommy Lasorda, he reaches for Rolaids. Nothing works better for acid indigestion. And why should heartburn take the fun out of the game? Relief. You know how to spell it.
2 years ago, Kevin McReynolds traded from the Padres to the Mets, and he compares the 2 cities and clubs.
That's pretty much the same way I was in San Diego. I think fitting into New York was easier than it was in San Diego. I'm not the big man in New York. There's 5 or 6 big guys there. And in San Diego, I was projected in a more pressure-packed role. I was supposed to produce and be one of the big guys in the lineup. And I felt like I had some good years in San Diego, but it never seemed to be enough. And in New York, I feel like I'm much more appreciated.
He leads off in the 7th. That's sort of man bites dog stuff. I've never heard a guy say it was more difficult playing in San Diego than New York as he grounds one in the center field for a base hit. But a very interesting theory there.
But you could tell by the way he talks, that easy manner of his, and you go back to his statement to us before game 1, he said, I'm a winner either way. He said, if we lose, I go back to Arkansas, and if we win, I go to the World Series. It's a very simple and terrific philosophy. Rarely rattled.
Well, the pressure of going to New York has gotten to a lot of guys in their careers. To wit, Ed Whitson. It almost destroyed him when he went to the Yankees.
To Whitson.
To Whitson, right. But McReynolds, he loves the Big Apple. From Arkansas to Gotham. No problem.
He's given him some outstanding years. I mean, he does 21 consecutive steals. Hasn't been thrown out stealing this year. We saw that a couple games ago. He waited, stole when it was the opportune time. Plays the great left field. Now, I didn't see him play that much in San Diego in center field. They said a lot of people, scouts, feel that he was a little bit out of position.
To right field and slicing and deep, and Marshall goes back and makes the catch. What a play by Mike Marshall. So Jeffries gets robbed, McReynolds back to first, and Carter is the batter.
Well, 6'5" and tremendous, not wingspan, but arm span allows him to catch this ball. Started the season at first base, preferred to play in right field because of his back, and Greg Jeffries not too intense. He had another double counted, maybe a triple, the way he can run.
McReynolds at first base. McReynolds coming into the game tonight in this series was 3 for 20. Tonight he's 3 for 3 plus a sacrifice fly. 1-0 the count on Carter.
A lot of people really feel he is an MVP candidate because he was so consistent all year. Strawberry, of course, started off really strong, has a little bit better numbers. RBI 101 to 99, home runs 39 to 27.
That's ripped foul outside third, and the count is 1-1.
I think Darryl Strawberry has had a more valuable year than Kevin McReynolds, and I'll tell you why. When Darryl Strawberry carried the Mets, nobody else was hitting, including McReynolds. He did go through about a 5-week thing in the middle of the season, and Darryl almost did it single-handedly. Admittedly, McReynolds has been, for the most part, very consistent and more consistent than Strawberry, but not as spectacular over a short period of time when the Mets needed offense, and Darryl was it. Hernandez was out of there, and I mean, Strawberry got a ton of big hits for the Mets, and that's why I think he has had a more valuable year than McReynolds.
And you're hearing that from a man who has seen just about every Mets game this season. So you've won me over. 3-1 pitch with McReynolds going is a strike, and the throw to second is not nearly in time. And so McReynolds with a stolen base here going on a 3-1 pitch. And as we mentioned, 21 for 21 this season, has not been thrown out in a year and a half.
Again, he takes 4 pitches to really figure out Ricky Horton, and then beats. I mean, this is a good throw. It's a little bit high. Got rid of it quickly. Good pitch to throw on, a fastball. Another stolen base. Calculating base runner.
3-2 the count on Gary Carter.
Well, another reason that McReynolds wouldn't, his abilities don't stand out. You don't know how fast he's running. You don't know how strong he is. Pitchers don't know how quick he is inside. He does things so smoothly, Strawberry spectacularly. And that has a lot to do with the way that you're perceived. Here's McReynolds. The gait of Kevin McReynolds is so smooth, and he plays the game that way. You look up at the end of the season, he has these 99 RBIs, 27 home runs, and you think back and you say, well, where did he mount this attack, this consistency? He runs the same way, quiet demeanor.
And all that is factored into the voting as Carter takes inside ball 4. That one skitters away from Scioscia and advances McReynolds to third. So runners at first and third with 1 out, and Kevin Elster coming up. In terms of this MVP voting, I remember a very interesting situation back in 1972 when the Reds won the pennant in Cincinnati. Bob Herzl, who now writes for the Pittsburgh Press, was a Cincinnati reporter at the time and had an MVP vote. He saw every game that year, and he felt that Joe Morgan was more valuable to the Reds than Johnny Bench was that year. And so his vote for MVP for the league went to Morgan, who had a fabulous year, as did Bench. But Bench won it. Bench won it by plenty. But it just goes to show you that there's a perception and there's a whole other thing when you see every game and you see just a few. And the guy who sees the team all year long is going to oftentimes view it differently.
I think that was a walk to Carter, obviously, but I think it was a pass ball on Scioscia.
It was. So runners at first and third, 1 down, and Kevin Elster is the batter. Infield at double play depth, and he takes outside ball 1. Strike, 1-1.
Remember now, Davey Johnson does not like the squeeze like Tommy Lasorda does. 2 different managers as far as they're thinking about the squeeze play. Davey feels as though if you give the hitter the squeeze sign, unless it's a pitcher, that in effect you're telling him he can't drive the run in. I've got to put a sign on for you to get the run in. There is some logic to that. You can't do it on your own. I'll help you out. If you're a catcher, you look for something different out of the hitter. And Elster did something different there. It's a good time for a squeeze if you're going to put it on.
3-1.
I said he did something different because when the third base coach gives the sign to the hitter must relay it back to the third base coach, acknowledging that he receives it. And then the third base coach, usually with the word sign, gives it to the third base runner, or the runner at third base. As you just saw something uttered from Sam Palazzo. That's why the catcher looks at the hitter to see if there's something unusual, like a sign that he's given to the third base coach.
And it's ball 4, so the bases are loaded. Horton has given up a single and 2 walks, and the only out in the inning was that great catch by Marshall. Peronoski trotting to the mound. When you trot to the mound, chances are the pitcher's going to stay in the game. And David Cohn is the batter.
True. I think that it's a definite sign. As we look at Jesse Orozco throwing down in the Dodger bullpen, Tommy came out the other night to tell Orozco, basically throw the ball over. And I think that's what I'm getting pretty used to after, 5 games of reading Tommy's lips. Tell him to throw the ball over.
Well, I guess a reporter the other night asked Tommy what he said when he went to the mound, and Tommy said, "What do you think I said?" It was a woman reporter, and she said, "Didn't you say throw the heck
What the heck are you doing out here? Right.
What the heck? And Tommy said, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. You cannot relive.
It was not what the heck.
Yeah. David Cohn. It's a little squiver back to Horton. He comes home to social one. Back to first. Double play. So the Mets can't capitalize in the seventh. Still 5-1 after 6½.
IBM presents You Make the Call. A batter hits a high chop off of home plate. On its way down, the ball hits the batter and rolls foul. Is the batter out? You make the call. Anytime a ball hits a batter out of the batter's box, regardless of where it rolls, the batter is out and the ball is dead. If you said so, you made the right call.
You're familiar seeing second basemen and shortstops cheating at second base. But watch and see how Mike Scioscia cheats on this play. He gets out of the way, clears himself for McReynolds, who is trying to take him out of the play. That's perfectly legitimate. If you can touch home plate, then you can take a catcher out of the plate just like a second baseman or a shortstop. And you see McReynolds doing that right there, but he misses him. So Scioscia has to clear and cheat. Watch. Watch his footwork. Clears the feet out of McReynolds' way and completes the 1-2-3 double play.
The Mets, meanwhile, have now left 11 men on base through 7, but still lead 5-1, and David Cohn will work on the bottom of the Dodger order. Hamilton, Griffin, and then we'll see a pinch hitter for the pitcher. Hamilton 1 for 2 tonight, hit .236 during the regular season. Strike one, 0-1. Curve to the hole, scooped up by Elster. Strong throw gets him. One away in the 7th inning. Kevin shading him that way and throwing out Hamilton, and it brings up Alfredo Griffin. A reminder, college football comes your way on Saturday. You'll see one of those 2 games, Washington taking on 3rd-ranked USC in Los Angeles, or Michigan against Iowa in Iowa City. Check your local listings for the game in your area, 3:30 Eastern Saturday.
Well, that's why it's so important for the shortstop, your middle infielders, and really your third basemen to know what's coming. Might take a step or lean that way, makes the play a lot easier.
Strike one to Griffin. Well, the man on the left may be the man of the moment tomorrow with Mel Stottlemyre on the right. Ron Darling would be the starting pitcher against Hershiser. Griffin tries to bunt his way on and misses, and the count is 0-2. So Darling, who was the starter in Game 3 and didn't like the conditions, well, nobody liked the conditions, felt the game shouldn't be played, will have no problem with the weather tomorrow.
Well, he said he spent the last 2 days in the training room getting treatment just because of slipping and sliding on the wet ground. See the ball in his hand. He throws so many split-fingered fastballs. In fact, Mel Stottlemyre said it's almost a forkball, which means your fingers are separated more.
Popped up, foul ground. Carter comes over, waves Jeffries away and makes the catch. 2 down, and now Danny Heath will come up to hit for Ricky Horton. Heath 4 for 44 as a pinch hitter this season.
Gary taking charge. When it's usually one of the two, it's just that somebody take charge and clear the area. It's mine. Rather routine play, but you don't want anybody close to you, do you, Gary? A lot of collisions, though. I mean, I'm kidding, but especially in spring training with not a lot of foul territory, you see catchers and first basemen, catchers and third basemen running into each other because of lack of communication.
And also the younger players are there, guys who really aren't used to working with each other on occasion. 0-2 on Danny Heath.
I think that's why he calls it so early. Greg Jeffries hasn't played only, last month, so in fact, I saw Bill Melton come in, look at the catcher, and take a foul ball right in the face, which was really an awful injury. So the earlier you can communicate it, easier to make the play. Jim Cott was the best I've ever seen of separating infielders or catchers, pulling a guy off after one guy had called it.
2-2 the count.
Call one guy and hold the other one.
And he'd do that.
The Dodgers well trained in that particular aspect of the game for many, many years.
Tonight, that's the quiet bench.
You can just tell from looking at the benches what the score is. Not just tonight, but just about any time. And of course, that David Cone, as you look at, yes, talk about beast pacing.
Mickey Hatcher, it doesn't matter what the score is. The only time we have caught him sitting down was yesterday morning. And I think that was just fatigue.
And down goes Heath. So Danny out on strikes. Cone has struck out 6. To the 8th we go. 5-1 Mets. Columbia over Dodger Stadium, where we might have a game tomorrow night. At the risk of jumping the gun with the Mets on top by a score of 5-1, let's talk about tomorrow night's matchup. If we do go to a 7th game, and your thoughts on the Hershiser-Darling matchup.
Well, Dwight Gooden will be well rested to pick up Darling in the middle innings. Mel Stottlemyre told me that before the game tonight.
Of course, Darling's strength was at home this year, 14-1, 6-8 on the road. So it should be quite a game. But Hershiser's thrown a lot the last couple of days. But did it well, and he said he's in a great mental frame of mind.
You know, it's interesting to note at the beginning of this, you saw the blimp, and hey, Columbia wins one game, and they get a blimp named after
it. Never thought of that.
Breaking their 44-game losing streak, right? Not too shabby.
Lions are rolling.
In that weather.
And the Mets are rolling.
Maybe that's what it took.
Yeah. 5-1 as Orozco comes into work, and Sachs leaps but can't make the play, and Len Dykstra leads the 8th inning off with a single, and that's his second hit. So Dykstra on a base hit to right. That's 10 hits for the Mets. By the way, I recomputed. The Mets have left 10, not 11 through 7, but still lead 5-1.
Well, Jesse gets the ball in on him, but Lenny on a hot streak, just loops it right off the fist into right field. Can you imagine that playing in the minor leagues in 1983 and playing against Lynchburg, and Dykstra hit .358 with 105 steals. Gooden was 19-4 with 300 strikeouts in 190 innings.
2-1 pitch with Dykstra going is popped in the air and foul ground, and racing over is Sachs, and he can't make the catch. He had the best angle, but Steve went down as the ball came down and can't make the play despite a valiant effort. So Sachs gets a hand as he goes back to second, and we take a look.
Well, you're seeing the end of this play. I think the reason he makes a great effort to catch it, but on the hit and run, he was covering second base, so he had to go to second and then come all the way back and try to make that play. Had the best angle, but the late jump.
I'll tell you, with plays like this, you saw Hatcher earlier, Gibson injured. If the Dodgers do beat the Mets in the best of 7, they might not be able to field a team to meet Oakland on Saturday. I mean, these guys are really beat up. They have really played hard, and they've got to be hurting, even for tomorrow night's game. Hatcher falling on his shoulder, hitting his head earlier. That play by Sachs. And Gibson, of course, in left field.
You talked about pitching rotations. In a perfect world, Dodgers would have liked to win tonight and have Hershiser for the first game of the World Series. Doesn't appear that's going to happen.
Well, the guy who's got to love all of this is Tony La Russa.
Oh, yeah.
What he'd like to see tomorrow night is about a 37-inning game. Dykstra goes, gets a great jump, and with 2 strikes, a backman bunt, and he's tagged out by Orozco. So with 2 strikes, he lays one down. Dykstra had a tremendous jump and had second base stolen easily. Had that pitch missed.
Yeah, Dykstra, a good jump.
Yeah, well, he just goes on the first move, and that's what you have to do. Sometimes it's a calculated risk. I mean, I would assume that he knows Jesse Orozco's move from playing with him, so he knows he's not coming to first and just takes off.
And Orozco saying, "Get back, man." It was a natural.
Yeah.
Here's Hernandez, 1 for 4.
The point you made about Sandy Alderson up in Oakland, he didn't have to go quite as far. I mean, his teams did not finish 73 and 89. Not to mean the job he did, because he did a wonderful job. But
that's true.
Think of the Dodgers, 73 and 89 the last 2 years, the worst defensive ball club, last in the National League in runs. 44-game difference this year.
Strikes to Hernandez, 0-1.
I think it's a 44-game difference. Anyway, from a major difference.
Well, if the Dodgers play the A's in the World Series, it's 1974 Redo. And if the Mets play the A's, it's 1973 all over again. 0-2.
And the Mets in 73 beating a very, very good Cincinnati team. And Sparky Anderson and Pete Rose have both told me that they have never forgotten that series. And that's the thing about the playoffs. It makes such an indelible impression on you that if you're on the losing end and you think you should have won, you never forget it.
Reds were a tremendous powerhouse, and the Mets had the worst record for a first-place team in history, 82-79. As Hernandez hits a fly ball to center field, and John Shelby will corral it for the second out. 2 down. That's the nature of the playoffs. Of course, I think it's a little more fair now because of the best-of-7 setup. That was a best-of-5, and not only did the Mets win that year, but the Reds won a dramatic game in the first game. Tom Seaver pitched as brilliantly as I ever saw him pitch, and Pete Rose hit a home run in the 8th inning to tie the game 1-1, and Johnny Bench won it on a 9th-inning homer. And the Reds were only 2 outs or 2 wins away, but John Matlack came back the next day to tie the series, and that was the famous Pete Rose, Bud Harrelson duke it out at second base.
At Shea Stadium.
Ground ball hit down to first base. Milner has it, throws to Buddy Harrelson, 1 to first, double play, and a fight breaks out. A fight breaks out. Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson, both clubs spill out of the dugouts, and a wild fight is going on. Jerry Kuzman's in the middle of the fight. Everybody is out there. Buddy Harrelson and Pete Rose got into it. Rose apparently thought that Harrelson had done something in making the double play. Rose outweighs Harrelson about 35 pounds.
Strawberry now. Low for a ball, 1-0. 2-0. There is Bud Harrelson, none the worse for wear from those Pete Rose uppercuts. What a scene. Hello, Bud. I said, what are those guys saying about me right now?
And Pete Rose obviously watching. Peter Edwards just signing a 2-year contract. Murray Cook and Marge Schott obviously happy with the job Pete has done.
To shallow center, he hit it off the end of the bat. Shelby comes in and makes the catch. And so the Mets are done in the 8th. At the end of 7.5, it remains Mets 5. Dodgers won in Game 6. Harrelson on October 11th, 1988, right there. And we've gone to the archives. We were talking about it. You go back 15 years in the playoffs in New York. We talked about it. Joe Morgan bounces into this double play to end the inning. And then Pete Rose sliding in to try to break it up. And there they went, Rose and Harrelson.
And others.
And others. Battle Royale. Well, the Dodger crowd trying to get something going as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Top of the order, Sachs to lead off, and Hatcher and Gibson. And as if on cue, 50,000 screaming at the tops of their lungs, and the count 1-0. It's slowly to third. Charged by Jeffrey. Throws on the run. And there's no better way to quiet a crowd than an out.
With a Laredo curveball. The one he drops down on. It's the second one he's thrown all night. And talked about in the first game, or excuse me, the second game. Once again, said last year, a lot of times had trouble with his emotions, his poise. Certainly been focused tonight.
Hatcher. Fly ball, shallow left field. McReynolds comes in, quickly 2 down. And Cone keeps rolling 9 in a row. And Kirk Gibson coming up.
Mel Stottlemyre talked about his work habits and his work ethics, and he said, I learned them from my dad. His dad, a master mechanic, goes to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So he said that, you know, I don't know how I'm going to do tonight, but I just relish the opportunity to be out there, especially after what happened in Game 2. He proved that 20-3 is not a fluke. Stottlemyre also talked about maybe the best thing that happened to him. He broke his finger last year bunting off Atley Hammaker. He sat on the bench for 2 months while he was healing, had a chance to see all the other pitchers.
Gibson pops it up in foul territory. Jeffries and Elster. Elster takes charge and makes the catch. And the decibel level doesn't bother David Cone one iota. On to the ninth. Mets 5, Dodgers 1.
Once again, Kirk Gibson, the weight shift off the back leg and hitting off his front foot and fouling to the left side. He's done that 3 times, and he did this the first time up. And that might have set the stage for what Gibson has done tonight.
As we go to the 9th inning, and Gibson is out of the game, and Jose Gonzalez, there was Kirk leaving. He's done for the night after he pops out in the bottom of the 8th, and it's Jose Gonzalez taking over in left field here in the top of the 9th as Lasorda sits him down and thinks about tomorrow. Even though the Dodgers have 3 outs remaining, they're down by 4. Kevin McReynolds leading off, to be followed by Jeffries and Carter here in the 9th inning. Down the line, hooking into the corner, and that's a fair ball and a ground rule double. And Kevin McReynolds has 2 singles, a double, a home run, a sacrifice fly. He scored a run, and he's driven in 3. He may not be the MVP for the season, but he's got at least a part of the honor tonight, along with David Cone.
He never changed his expression either. Here he just jumps on a curveball. It's down, but it's on the inside part of the plate. And even when he doesn't get hits, it just seems like he's very placid. I know I'll get one next time, or if not today, tomorrow. And that's what you talked about earlier. Just over the course of 162 games, very durable, puts up outstanding numbers.
He's also stolen a base, and he has 3 putouts. Outside of that, nothing. One and 0 the count. 1-1. Well, Davey Johnson is the implacable one. Davey, outside of that smile with the 3-run rally in the first game, has looked the same all week, all season. With Lasorda, we've seen the full spectrum. One and 2.
Well, I talked to General Manager Frank Cashin, and I said, when are we going to see some clarification of the managerial situation in New York? He said, no comment. So a lot is riding on it, not only for Met fans, the Mets, but also Davey Johnson.
They have agreed to file that away, and they wanted to diffuse attention. There's Frank Cashin and Joe McIlvaine seated next to him. But they didn't want that to become a major issue during the playoffs and/or World Series. Popped up, Hatcher comes over, and Mickey has a play. 1 out. So Jeffries taken care of, and Gary Carter will be the batter.
In fact, Commissioner Uberoff said he'd like to have any major announcements postponed till after the playoffs and World Series. And of course, the next day, George announced Dallas Green as the new manager of the Yankees.
But apparently, from what I understand, he got permission. He called to ask for permission. He wanted to make the change and put the wheels in motion.
From 1 to 6 in the afternoon, and that's when it was announced.
Right. But you're right. The reason they did that, Steinbrenner, remember in the 85 World Series, as I recall, not that he was attempting to upstage the World Series, but announced the hiring of Lou Piniella on the eve of the 7th game. Carter lines one to center field, and Shelby makes the catch. So Gary is gone. He's 0 for 4 tonight. With pursed lips, he goes back to the dugout, and Kevin Elster comes to the plate.
Only alternative right here is to walk Elster, and that's what the Dodgers are going to do. 9th inning, 2 outs.
Tommy's amazing.
Tommy's still, he's talking about what happened earlier in the game.
What a show.
It really is.
Win or lose. Tommy. You know, one thing Lasorda is as animated as they come, but Tommy also knows a lot about television. And our director, Craig Janoff, and producer, Kurt Gowdy, you know, before the series, we started talking about you got to shoot Lasorda when he doesn't know he's on. I think his reaction shots have been fabulous during the series, because when Tommy understands that that camera in the well next to the dugout turns around to shoot him, it's a whole other thing.
He's looking at it now.
Yeah.
Now he gets it. There he is.
Oh, boy. The show within the show. We've had some great shows within the show. It's been a terrific series.
Sure
and
has.
seemingly every night we've had some kind of crazy story develop. It's really been a series to remember. David Cone, who provided the biggest sidebar of Game 2, stands in. Cone pops it up, and Hamilton will take care of this one. And the Mets strand 2 more. They've left 13 men on base, but still, as we go to the bottom of the ninth, they lead it 5-1. Brooklyn cap, the B, the Mets, of course, and the Cone heads as backdrop. I mean, what more do you need here?
Well, Tommy's saying we need is some runs. You know, that's when you bring up offense. I think Orel Hershiser said, you know, I don't mind that even in the last couple of years when he pitched 500, the defense was not very good or whatever, but he said you can't win unless you get runs. And it's been tough off Dave Cone tonight.
Bottom of the ninth inning, Mets on top 5-1. Mike Marshall to lead off. Cone has shut down the last 10. Earlier in the game, he had a string of 9 in a row. He retired 9, then he wobbled. He gave up the only run on 2 singles and a walk. And now he's going to, well, I was going to say definitely get Marshall, and as it turns out, he does, but in a rather unconventional way as Elster makes the play.
Well, a lot of people don't think about that. When a third baseman who is encouraged to take everything he can get sometimes goes too far, the thing you got to do then is to get down. And Jeffries, even though he's a rookie, 100 at-bats or so this year, had the wherewithal to get down. Now watch, he goes far to his left. He realizes he's gone too far. Hit the deck, baby. And he does. And it becomes a rather routine play.
Shelby, 0-1. In foul territory, Jeffries. And that's the second out. Well, let's see, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 foul outs in the game tonight.
And that's an indication of great late pop on the fastball.
Yeah, and that's how he does it. We talked about how you can hold a fastball, the four-seamer, run it away from him, and if it's moving well, and it has been all night, they swing under it.
6 foul outs off Dodger bats. Strike to Socha. So 2 out, bases empty. And we are on the verge of a 7th game. 0-2. A strike away from a 7th game. And a base hit into right field. Hernandez was breaking toward the bag. One of those should I or shouldn't I. And Socha with a single into right field. First Dodger hit since the 5th inning.
Well, it shows what really location of the pitch on the plate is.
Jay Howell is in the Dodger bullpen, if nothing else, just to loosen up, because remember, he's had not only a lot on his mind the last couple of days, but it's also altered his routine in keeping ready. So he wants to get in some throwing. As he works in the bullpen, Hamilton the batter, and he lines one into center field, base hit. And while he's working, he could also think about and dream about a 4-run Dodger rally to tie it.
And when you're trailing by 4 in the 9th inning, the best you can hope for is to get a chance. And the best way to get that chance is to get the tying run up there. And Mike Davis is going to be the pinch hitter. And if he gets on, the tying run will indeed be up there. Cone getting down there. Boy, that ball hit like a seed back through the middle.
Now look at where the location is. You may not be able to tell from this particular angle. Throw it and duck. Of course, that's what they yell from the bench when they're getting on a pitcher. Ooh, that was a literal throw it and duck. But he's gotten a little bit, not lazy, but mentally lazy. 2 balls in the middle of the plate. And I think the reason he's gone this far is that he's been able to keep the ball out of that area of the plate.
Randy Myers throws in the Mets bullpen. 2 out in the 9th inning. And Davis fouls it away. 0-1.
Well, something we've almost dwelled on is the fact that when you have a lead, and he has a 5-1 lead, you have to make the hitter swing the bat. He goes right after him.
One and one.
Mike Davis, a low fastball hitter. Poor year, under 200 at about 197.
Franklin Stubbs on deck if Davis keeps the inning alive. 2-1, and if Davis keeps the inning alive, Stubbs is pretty much an all-or-nothing hitter, certainly capable of jacking one out.
Well, 2 pinch hit home runs this year already, so of course he will not be hitting off of Dave Cone.
Not at all.
Nope.
Fly ball left field. Here comes McReynolds, and tomorrow night these 2 teams play 1 game for the pennant. And Tommy Lasorda sends his Bulldog, Hershiser, to the mound, and Davey Johnson counters with the Yaley, Ron Darling. Tomorrow night at 8 Eastern Time, David Cone. A shaky start in the 1st, a little wobble in the 5th, another tiny wobble here in the 9th, but goes all the way. Looking anything but a 20-game winner in Game 2, and looking very much like a man who won 20 in Game 6.
Strawberry Cone.
Absolutely. As the Mets head for dessert, 5-1 in Game 6. 1 Mets. They squandered early opportunities, but still took the lead, were able to hold on, wrapped out 11 hits. David Cone goes all the way to tie the series at 3 games apiece. Leary, the loser. McReynolds had a tremendous night, 4 for 4 plus a sacrifice fly. And we're going to wire up the 2 fellas who'd be co-MVPs, David Cone and Kevin McReynolds. And first, David, sum up your feelings after the disaster of Game 2 and the great triumph here tonight in Game 6.
Well, you know, we had the big 1st inning. I didn't really prepare myself to go out there, and I struggled early. And fortunately, I got out of it, and I just made up my mind. I'm going to just try to go right after him and be aggressive. And that's it.
How did you feel in the 1st inning? You couldn't throw the ball over the plate.
Well, that was just it. I was sitting down, and, you know, we had the long 1st inning, and I went out there, and I didn't prepare myself properly, and it cost me. But fortunately, I made some good pitches to get out of it.
And you must have felt like you were in total command outside of that little wobble in the 5th inning.
Yeah, I did. You know, unfortunately, I fell behind once again, the same problem in the 1st inning, but, you know, I made the big pitch on Gibson, and I think that was the key in the game right there.
Well, David, you're no longer a columnist, as we all know, but we're going to let you become a member of the media anyway tonight. What question would you like to ask the man off your right shoulder, Kevin McReynolds, who had a tremendous night?
I really don't know. My mind's blank right now.
We're not letting you off that easy, Dave.
We don't blame you.
The fish aren't biting.
Kevin, here you come into the game tonight with 3 hits in 5 games, and then have a big night, 4 for 4 plus a sacrifice fly.
Well, it's a strange game, and you go out there and keep plugging away, keep hacking at it, and sometimes good things happen, and that's what exactly happened for me tonight.
Kevin, I remember you telling me before Game 1 that you're a winner either way. If you win, you go to the World Series. If you lose, you go back to Arkansas, right?
Well, that's exactly the way I still feel. I certainly want to go to the World Series right now, and we'll come out tomorrow and we'll give them the best effort we got, and if that's not enough, then at least we know we tried.
All right, David, your thoughts about tomorrow night's game now, with Darling going for the Mets and Hershiser for the Dodgers?
Well, we couldn't feel more confident with another guy on the mound. Ron Darling's the man, and everybody on this team has confidence in that guy, and I tell you what, we're feeling good about that right now.
Okay, gentlemen, congratulations. Kevin McReynolds and David Cone, a terrific night for each as the Mets square the series at 3 games apiece by beating the Dodgers, the final score 5-1.